We are about to air in a few minutes. We're about to air in a few minutes. I just want to give everyone the opportunity to forward and put forward on your text, email, Facebook. I sent some emails out. I know it's last minute, but this is a very important, really legal update. And of course, this is Doosua, York, and Hatep to the family. Hatep Yasar. I just bust in like that. Excuse me for that, but definitely, we're here. We're on. We're moving. The first few minutes, we want to give everyone the opportunity to forward and call people to let the family know that we are online, and that those that need, that would like to tune in, they should, and especially with their questions, get their questions answered. You can forward your questions to doosua@yahoo.com. I know some of the emails have been going to the WNWadmin.com email address. Of course, someone hacked that email address and started sending spam. So it's been temporarily shut down just briefly until we get it back up. But for the most part, all your questions, please immediately email them to Doosua, DOOSUABA@yahoo.com. It should be in your email, or simply Facebook it. I can look at it from there, or inbox me at Doosua York Facebook. I can check it from there. But we definitely want to address the questions that the family has, and we want to set the record straight on a lot of issues that's been brewing for the last few weeks, and a lot of innocent Nuwaupians are being deceived by several media outlets and people hiding behind their computers, addressing our progress and attempting to hinder it. So we're going to put a stop to that on this show. We're going to put a stop to it. We're going to address all of the concerns that we possibly can within the few hours that we have. So just to make it clear, these next few minutes, maybe 5, it's 3:32. We want to give people about 5 or 10 minutes to let others know. I know it's last minute. We put it out about an hour before that we were going on, but this, of course, is an anticipated show because we're at the point where, as we in the defense mode of our nation, of our name, of our master teacher, Pa Mumkak, Pa Nabab Yanun, our father, our spiritual guide. A lot of the attention is trying to be taken off of his freedom, which we won't allow that to happen. Though we are going to address the concerns and the poison that people are attempting to create in our nation. They're trying to create division. They're trying to basically come out the woodworks, as he says all the time. Why now? At a pivotal point in his freedom and the freedom of our nation, the freedom of our tribe, and the fight against the beast, we have those who want to come out and address minor issues and make themselves appear heavier than what they are, make themselves sound deeper than what they are, and ask questions that are easily answered in reference to international law, our sovereignty, our position, the protection that we have. So all of that is going to be addressed. The Wichita, the 215-1993, that's going to be addressed. That's been a topic amongst the nation because of ignorance. Because of ignorance and not doing enough research. There you have people who are spreading so-called information as if it's authentic, as if they have backing and facts to back it up to debunk what we're doing, and they can't do it. It's impossible. It's been laid out for 20, 30 years by Partner Bab, and you cannot touch Yanun. You have never been able to touch our father in no way, shape, form, or fashion, incarcerated or free, in any school that he's taught, and it won't happen now. And so we're going to address it immediately to stop all the crap that's been going on Facebook and on Twitter and on YouTube, and get our father's dignity, make sure that's maintained in the international community, his integrity, his name, protect his everything he's worked for, everything he's built, everything he's sacrificed. You're not just going to easily come and pop up with a 37-minute video and think you're going to affect our nation like that and not expect any answers or any response. So this is what it is. Y'all forced us into this situation. We were minding our business, of course, fighting on our father's freedom, doing what we're supposed to do on our end, not focusing on certain Negroes that's on the sideline, but because you forced our hand and you're poisoning our family as Nuwaubian men first, before any title, before any other position, whatever you think it is, we're Nuwaubian men first, and we stand strong for our father, Pa Mumkak, Kamam, Bananu, Akab, Pa Nabab Yanun, Pa Munzal, all the illustrious titles that he has. We stand strong for them, and we will defend them with our life. And this is just the first portion of what's going to be heard anytime you try to attack or defame or assassinate or try to belittle his character, and because you think he doesn't have a voice out here and he can't address people personally, and you think that you can run off with behind these cameras and behind these keyboards and punch your fingers as if you're doing damage, and it's not going to happen. And we definitely going to set the record straight today on this show, WUNW Radio, UNN Radio, the official radio station of the United Nuwaubian Nation, the Yamasee Native American, Creek, Wichita Mound Builders, amongst other tribal mixtures, which we will address. We will address our Empress and the Wichita number that we signed on under, which people have some type of confusion in reference to the 215-1993. That will be addressed. His lineage will be addressed. My name and my attachment to this R. Kelly situation, which is something that I never wanted to address because it's not about me personally, but since it's a topic and it keeps coming up and it's coming from sources that have no clue, that has never met me, don't know me, have never shaken my hand or asked me any questions personally in reference to my personal life, for some reason that is a major topic. And so I have to address it. I'm forced to. Briefly, to get back to our father's freedom, and it's something that has to be done. So just 5 more minutes, just let people know that we are on and we're taking questions, and a lot of things are going to be said that people are not going to like, but it's facts and it's truth, and it's the bottom line. It has to be done. We've taken abuse enough. You're not going to keep abusing our tribe. You're not going to keep abusing our family. You're not going to keep abusing our father in the position he's in, sacrificing 10 years of his life, doing what he has always done. You're not going to keep doing that. So don't think it's that easy. Don't think it's going to be a cakewalk. And if whether we have to fight the beast, the 7 heads and 10 horns, and black devils and white devils, we will do it. And not looking to be liked, because this is not a fight where we're looking to be liked or accepted by anyone. We're doing what we do. We're doing what our ancestors has called us to do. And it's not going to be friendly. It's not going to be, nice guy. I'm not going to be, some people are not going to love me simply because of the job that we have to do. And that's simple as that. So to all the Nuwaubian family, much love to you. This is not an angry show. We're not mad. We're not attacking. This is not an attack. We've been on the defense since day one. And now it's time for us to set the record straight and not allow this to take place anymore, because we're responsible for what these people are saying. If we don't respond with facts, then slander and gossip becomes truth. And that's sayings of Pa Munzal. So we want to, again, give people a few more minutes to tune in. And this will be recorded, video as well as audio. So we will have access to it. And there's going to be a multiple amount of, a lot of information going to be laid out, a lot of declarations for people to research on their own, and they will be shown on video so you can see that these documents do exist, and you'll be able to shut people up and when you're in defense of your we are actually live on the radio, WUNW Radio, UNN, United Nuwaubian Nation Radio, the official radio station of our blessed, honored, self-willed, free-determined people, an indigenous nation of sovereign people, retain sovereignty under our constitutionally seated president, Pa Mumkak, Kamam, Bananu, Akab, Pa Nabab Yanun, also known as His Excellency Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, our beloved master teacher, father, friend, and so many other illustrious titles that he has, and his magnificence and his greatness and all of the wonderful works and love, sacrifice, all of the great qualities that he has shown us and has given us. We want to first give thanks and love and send our loyalty to him. Know that we are still here fighting and that he will be free without a question, with or without doubters. We have those individuals who are fighting against us, and we welcome that because it just makes us stronger. And those Nuwaupians, wu-nuwaupu, who are worldwide, a part of our nation, have accepted our Constitution, have accepted our president, and is in favor of defending our nation as we are today on this radio station. When we speak about setting the record straight, we want to make sure that that any misinformation that goes out there, it doesn't go unchecked. Though it's not going to be a distraction because some of it is not even worthy of us addressing. But the information that's detrimental and to our progress, then it's going to be addressed. And the lies will be eliminated with the facts that we present. The hate will be eliminated with the love that we have for our family, for our nation, for our tribe, for our president, for our future, and our existence on this planet, in this planet, and beyond this planet. So that's my name is Ambassador Doosua York, and I appreciate everyone tuning in. It's time for us to address these issues. We would like, of course, to start off with making sure that letting you know that you can send your questions to the email address that's posted in the email, Doosua York. Doosua, Badoosua. The radio station email, it was hacked into, and there was a lot of spam that was sent out, so it was shut down until it can be cleaned up and relaunched again. So please, any questions, email or Facebook. But we want to get into the show. And the main one of the main reasons why this show is necessary, there's several, of course, because it's always necessary to update our wu-nuwaupu family regarding our position, our nation, and the freedom fight of all, the freedom fight of Pamanzao, which has never stopped since May 9th. And we would like to address that, as well as address some other personal issues that for some reason becomes a hindrance with the progression of our people's consciousness and moving in a liberated mind state of acknowledging your sovereignty, acknowledging your statehood, acknowledging our independence, and really moving and acting as you are that in that state of Nuwapia. You are in a state of Nuwaupu, and which is another issue we would like to address in reference to the name. So there's a lot of small issues that, though they have been addressed before, they just constantly keep coming up and of a concern. And quite naturally, in order to get everything laid out factually, we have to be redundant in placing the facts out there, because some people missed other shows, some people have missed the updates, and we want to make sure that we Nuwaupians, true Nuwaupu, in defense of who we are, has everything laid out for you so you can defend your nation when you are not around other family members, because this is definitely a spiritual war, and there's forces that are moving through other people in the name of being right, in the name of being intelligent, in the name of, I've been around the master for this long, this is not how he's done it, or I know how Pop does things, or this is my father, my blood father, I know him, he wouldn't name this person this, he wouldn't do things this way. And you have a whole bunch of conjecture, a whole bunch of rhetoric and dogma that's not backed up by facts. You're not laying out anything. You're making statements on this video, which I'm going to get into. I don't know who the person is, but this bothered me, and it moved me to put the post up that I placed on Facebook because of the disrespect that's taking place in reference to Pamanzao. People are being disrespectful. They're taking his doctrine. They're not giving him his proper respect as the source of the words they're using. I'm not even going to go into the sentences. We're going to address the particular words that they're using to come against Nuwaupians, but they're using the doctrine of Pamanzao. They're using the doctrine of Pamumkak, Panabab Yanun. They're using his doctrine, and they're trying to reword it and add their words in so they can say, well, it didn't come from him. They don't want to have to give him credit as men because of how they look at him. And it's affecting our people. And by right, it's up to us in our defense, again, to address it. So this video is specifically called Are Nuwaupians Homegrown Terrorists and Sovereign Citizens? And for some reason, this guy, he doesn't make himself known. He makes accusations about myself and my life at Doosua, York, or a name that was given to me not by my consent, known as Damon Pryor. That name is not a name I chose, but for some reason, this is the points, the merits of these guys' argument. My incarceration is often put on the screen, it's laid out on the internet and for the world, Nuwaupians to see. So I'm forced to address it. My personal life has never been an issue. It's never been something that has needed to be on display. But for some reason, this is something that these guys, and it's mostly men, these so-called niggas who attempt to try to defame Pop in a subtle way, but they come at the information that's being presented and they attack me and use my past as a merited argument to defame or try to address our sovereignty and statehood. It has no connection whatsoever. My personal life has no connection to us as a sovereign nation and what our father laid out for us since upstate New York, Jazer Abba, late 80s to early 90s until we moved down here under his guidance, traveling with him as our chief. It has no significance whatsoever. There's no tying in whatsoever. Me going up to Chicago, being subpoenaed by R. Kelly's defense team has nothing to do with anything in reference to our freedom. But for some reason, it keeps being brought up and tied in, and we're going to eliminate that today. So let's move with this video. I don't know how many people saw the video, but I gave my word to the family that I would address it because it's necessary. And one of the first issues that this guy, I don't know who he is again, but he uses, and his video is about 37 minutes long, really about 38 minutes. So he took 38 minutes out of his life to address the progress that Nuwaupians are making and our father is made and laid out, that we finally picked up in reference to the ledger. The certain claims he's made, which are absolutely false. Total lies. And I would have dissected the entire video, but I felt as though it took too much time and it would have been more of a distraction than addressing the pivotal points in this video that, and I didn't want to go beyond what was necessary. Okay. Let me pause this. Now, for immediately he says there's a difference on a minute 45 of this video. Actually, I have Actually, let me go back because it started at 17 seconds of the video. He says that this just something that has recently formulated itself in the last few months. This is wrong. The United Nation of Nuwapia, or Nuwapia, the United Nuwapian Nation is not something that just recently started. In fact, which is why we come well prepared. And I'm going to address points that I feel as though is real pivotal. Now, this is a June 9th, 2003 flyer that was told to was to be put together by our president. And I don't know if you can see that here, but these documents will be made available. You can see them on the screen actually. What does UN 215-1993 mean? On this document above it, it says, "We the people, the Yamasee Native American, Original Cherokee, Seminole Creek, Shoshone, Wichita Mound Builders, the sovereign nation of the Wichita, de Dugdamoindia, Wahani, Nuwapia." All right? And it says 215-1993. So this is not something that recently started. In fact, we have a constitution that says the same thing, and it was delivered and drafted and given and accepted by us in 1992. So that's false. I'm not going to waste too much time on it. You see, he starts off the video with the lie. So it's not in the last few months. It's just recently formulated. It's been formulated. But this is our father's freedom, and he decides how he wants to proceed with the freedom fight. And as long as we stand up and follow protocol, we will be in the right position and we will be victorious. So you're wrong with that. So let's move forward to the next part of this video. So we start off with 17 seconds with the lie. It's not just recently formulated. At 36 seconds, he says, he said that we claiming we have a UN number 215-1993 at 36 seconds. And I can do this through the entire video, but I'm not, because it's going to waste a lot of time. And as you can see in the first few seconds, because of the lie, the first few minutes, because of the lies, it's not necessary really to go forth and move forward into addressing the whole thing, because it's going to give this individual more attention. But at 36 seconds, he says, and the UN, we claim to have a UN number 215-1993. All right?
They're registered with the Bureau of Indian Affairs under the Department of the Interior.
He also says that we're registered with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which originally started as the Department of War. It was a war department that the Congress placed to mediate between Native American tribes fighting and killing with white settlers. So they created this Bureau of Interior, right, or this Department of War, which was renamed the the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So we have to know the history of this department and why we took the position that we took. The master took the position he took, when little do people know the BIA came out to the land. And where he claims this letter or this registration form, yes, it was placed inside of the BIA as a paper trail. It was not intended for us to be recognized. It was never an instrument of recognition. It was an instrument for the purposes of a paper trail. When we placed it in the Interior, Department of Interior, all right, or the Bureau of Indian Affairs, it was to let them know that we are here, not for recognition. So when you say that we've not federally recognized, that goes into another argument insofar as people are claiming that the United Nuwaupian Nation needs recognition for our existence. And that is the spell. For some reason, this guy keeps implying that we have to go to them for recognition. They have to recognize our existence in order for us to claim statehood or independence. This is not the case. This is because you do not know international law. You're dealing with a local level or federal information and national information. You're not dealing with international protection. And the reason why you're not dealing with international protection, or the reason why it may not be known to you, is because it was purposely set up to where Native American tribes, brother, family, Native American tribes were eliminated. The governmental bodies and the sovereignty of these tribes were conspired against. And at the same time that the international community's stronghold, the adaptation of the Charter of the United Nations, right? The Montevideo Convention of the Rights and Duties of States, the Declaration, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. When these conventions were established, Native American governments and tribes and nations were almost 100% eliminated and dissolved. The ones that did obtain a certain amount of cultural sovereignty, the BIA forced them under their jurisdiction by something that was called the Dawes Act. Take your pen and a paper and read what the Dawes Act and the Curtis Act was responsible for. This right here is the Dawes Act, the transcript of the Dawes Act of 1887. Right? And we're going right into the history of Native Americans and the involvement with the early settlers and why these certain documents that Congress passed or acts eliminated the sovereignty of governments, meaning that indigenous governments, because the whole purpose of this the Dawes Act was to allot Native American land that they had for tribal community purposes. The Dawes Act took it upon themselves to give the power to the Bureau of Indian Affairs or the Department of Interior to allot certain portions of the land to tribal members for their own individual use. And it eliminated communal living. And it forced tribes to break up. And in doing that, it forced governments to break up, and it removed the sovereign indigenous status of Native Americans. So by the time the international community started working and acknowledging statehood, like the Montevideo Convention of the Rights and Duties of States acknowledged, there were no Native American indigenous tribes to come forth in the international community. One, because there was no outlet for them to have access to it. Because they had no governments that at the time, because of the Curtis Act and the Dawes Act that was passed by Congress. So when you talk about the BIA and you're talking about the federal recognition of the Yamasee, the original Cherokee, the Wichita, our recognition does not start with the BIA. Whoever is making this video is falsely informing people. You do not have to have federal recognition, especially in our case, because one, the Yamasee existed before the BIA. And we had a war with the United States. Before the United States even was established as the United States, we had a war with them in 1715 and through 1718, and it's documented. That is recognition. They know who we are. What you're calling recognition, definition, and what they consider recognition from the words of the BIA is privileges. That's what they're saying. They're saying if we recognize you, we will give you certain privileges that will allow you to have reservations, and the U.S., the BIA will give these Native Americans a certain amount of authority, give them authority. When they came to the land and tried to give us authority, our father, our president, said no. He did not want to be recognized, what you call recognition, by the BIA, because it would have pulled us up under their jurisdiction, up under their control. They would be able to come implement on our land what we could and could not do, what we can say and what we cannot say, how we can be taxed, what type of buildings we can put on our land, the type of casinos, and as long as they got a cut out of it, that was a part of being federally recognized. Our father knows what he's doing. He said he's not going to put us under their jurisdiction so they can claim and take anything at any time. If that's what you call recognition, no, we never wanted that recognition. Because we don't have to be recognized by them. They came after us. Okay? So when you claim to do nation to nation, as you say in this video, right, at 0.47 seconds, claiming that we are registered with the BIA, with the address, we would never recognize by them by the definition of the word. But again, because of your ignorance and not doing enough research, you don't know that that is not a prerequisite for our existence. And it states it, if you want to look it up, which we did this before, but because maybe you didn't tune in, you didn't know, that Article 3 of the Montevideo Convention on the Rights and Duties of States. This act was signed on December 26, 1933, and it came into force the very next year. And it's the governments that's represented in the 7th International Conference of American States. Article 1. This particular convention, right, governs the duties and the rights of a state. What is a state in international law? What is a nation in international law? What constitutes us as a nation in international law? What constitutes us as a state in international law? Article 1. A state is, as a person of international law, should possess the following qualifications. Look this up, please, people, please. A permanent population. They acknowledged us as having a permanent population by the articles that they wrote, by the keeping up of the numbers of wu-nuwaupu that came through our indigenous sovereign land, which was here and labeled before colonization. Our existence is written in our mounds. It's written in stone. That's before they even created the word recognition. You had to have recognized the Yamasee Native Americans if you went to war with them. You had to have recognized them if you went into a treaty with them. And don't claim we don't have treaties, because we have the original copies of the treaties right here on our desk. All right? So when you make, and I'm going to show them to you. Matter of fact, right here, which we received from, this is a ribbon. If you look here, there's going to be on the screen because it's going to be edited, but for those that are on a radio station, they don't see it right now. What I'm holding in my hand is a copy of a treaty that was signed by the Wichita, by the Muskogee, and the original Cherokee in Wahani or Altamaha, which was the original land of falsely known as Georgia or falsely named Georgia, from King George III, which was never the name of our land that we accepted or even consented to. Okay, so it was illegally named after James Oglethorpe received a charter from England under the pretense that he was going to make this state a state for prisoners, or the worthy poor, as they called them. All right? When you see this, it says Indian Treaty number 2, treaty with the 5 nations ratified in July 19, 1701, September 14, 1726. So this is before the United States even declared their independence in 1776. All right? So we were here before that. So this one document proves that recognition is established in this document, because you can't sign a document or treaty with a nation that you don't recognize. So cut the crap with this video recognition. That's you trying to pull us up under the Caucasian again by asking the master if we're not recognized. They don't recognize you, so we don't recognize you. You sound like a slave. You sound like someone that goes to a freeborn sovereign individual, and I'm not talking about sovereign citizens. That will also be addressed, because we're not sovereign citizens. We're sovereign nationals. Because we are nationals, we have a nationality as wu-nuwaupu. We're not citizens of the United States. So when you try to tie us into some militia group and a few 5 or 6 Caucasians who claim to be sovereign citizens, and then you try to tie a whole indigenous nation of Native Americans who went into treaties with the United States, and they have recognized us by the fact that we recorded as one of the most brutal fights and wars because of our resistance to assimilation, is totally different from some 1 or 2 individuals who claim sovereignty and they don't have a constitutionally seated president. They don't have recognition in the international community. All right? So this is just a portion of debunking this video, and I'm not even done because we only on 47 seconds of it. All right? And we didn't even get to the other 37 minutes, which we're not, because all of it is redundant. And it's the same crap you're reiterating, trying to sound like you know what you're talking about, and you don't. All right? So this treaty right here establishes recognition, because that's such an important word to people. We're not recognized. They always want to be recognized and acknowledged by the Caucasian, and that pisses me off personally, just personally. You know what I mean? Because as a man, as a Nuwaubian man, in order for us to properly liberate ourselves and get from up under him, we have to live up for and think by each other and think as free-willed sovereign individuals who are part of a sovereign nation. And not only are we just sovereign as a people, we have cultural sovereignty. Cultural sovereignty is a common group of people who have common goals, they have a common language, and they come from a common origin, and thus their culture is the same. And that's another form of another right that we have in the international community, and it's backed up by another convention that we will read to show you, as culturally sovereign people, though we still have rights in the international community, and thus with the United States committed against us by forcing us off of our land, forcing our children to assimilate, we're not just protected by the rights of indigenous people, because he mentioned that as well. But I don't want to get too far off the point. I'm going to address it point by point. All right, so now we have this treaty, which we went to Washington last week to get. We went to the National Archives. We went to the vault, and they copied it on blue paper and officially stamped it. So when we present this document, you won't say, "Oh, Doosua York just made it up." For some reason, y'all giving me all of these supernatural abilities. I'm able to create documents. I'm able to go to Switzerland and speak on the behalf of our nation. Yet in the same term, you say I'm a criminal. And then you say, but I'm able to travel over. How am I able to travel all over as a criminal? If I'm such a bad person and I'm such a con artist, why am I not in prison now? And if I do go to prison again, it's for fighting for something that we all need to stand up for. Which I'll address that, and I don't want to go back into. I don't want to go off point, but let's stick to point by point, and then we'll go into that whole issue with the other issues on this video. But this is a treaty. The second treaty, right? Of course, you see. I hope you see this ribbon. And if you get a look, it's National Archives and Records Administration. It says, let me just read it so people can see. First of all, the first page of the document, it says, first of all, it's paid for. It was shipped from the U.S. National Archives and Records Administration. There's two treaties that I'm speaking of specifically. This one is the Ratified Indian Treaty 191, and this is the one at Camp Holmes, Seneca, Quapaw, Camp Holmes, August 24th. Look it up. Please look it up. And you'll see August 24th, 1835. It's 10 pages long, and it's a peace treaty between the Wichita, the Cherokee, Muskogee, the Choctaw, the Osage, the Seneca, and the Guapo. But we are in there as Wichita. All right. So this is just as a solid point for recognition in reference to us being so-called recognized, because some people feel as though that's and it's not the case. So get it out of our heads, family. That's not the case. We do not have to be federally recognized in order for us to be claimed, in order for us to go into business or to do with nation-to-nation governmental business. Because we made our claim under the rights and duties of states, which I didn't get to Article 3. Article 3 says, the political existence of a state is independent of recognition. This is the right of a state. We are a state. We've always been a state. Why? Because the qualifications for statehood, don't believe nothing. I'm not the one that wrote this. This is their words. A permanent population, which we have. That's the purpose of the ledgers. The ledgers is not solely, of course not. No one has ever said. Someone put that on Facebook as well. And I mean, no one has ever said that the ledgers in totality will free him. Of course we know that's not the case. We know it's not that easy. For someone who's been fighting since May 9th, I know for a fact it's not that easy. We know that the ledgers is not going to solely free him. Just like one piece of the puzzle is not going to solely create the picture. But it's a piece of the puzzle because it establishes our permanent population. Okay. B, a defined territory. We have a defined territory. Where's our defined territory? All right, so to make Nuwaupians proud, to make our father proud, and continuing the great work of his freedom, we also, me and a brother Ari, we went to D.C. last week again, and we have 15 ancient and old maps. And in these maps, they establish our defined territory. All right. Now, I'm going to show you the maps. Family, on the radio, you can't see them, but you will see them on the station. On wu-nuwaupu.com. All right. these are a portion of the maps, family. What I'm holding in my hand is, this is called work. So my niggas is running their mouth. Excuse my tone, all right? But this is how I'm speaking. But niggas are running their mouth. They're not doing any work. They're not doing the proper research, because otherwise they wouldn't be making ridiculous videos and talking without showing their face. They would address the nation if they were really concerned. And that was the point of the post. The point of the post was that if you were really concerned about our family, you would take the time to do the research that's needed to back what your position is, because we've done the research. Let me show you a portion of the research. This is an ancient map right here, one of them, right? On this map, it has in southeastern Indian land session, from 1780 to 1840. As you can see, you have different areas that were inhabited by the Celtic and other invading people that came to our land and invaded what we know as Altamaha or Wahani, which is the ancient land of the Yamasee that we still have proclaimed and declared as ours, because we didn't give anyone the right to take it. They illegally allotted it when they passed this Dawes Act and this Curtis Act. Look it up, the Curtis Act and Dawes Act. When you read it, you will find out those two key acts was passed in order to eliminate Native Americans off of their land so they can use it for their own purposes. It was all done illegally. So, as a state, we have a defined territory. That's one map I'm showing here. There's another map that shows, that shows Georgia Indians in Cherokee country. It says it on the front. Cherokee country, this is all Native American land and Creek land. The Yamasee is in there. All right? Second map, and this is a map from 1732 to 1755. And it gives you the river known as, right here, Altamaha River, right? And this river stems from the Savannah River all the way up into Middle District of Georgia, right near Rock Eagle Mound, right near Rock Hawk Mound, right near the indigenous Yamasee land that our father reclaimed and acquired, and we acquired as indigenous people to rebuild and retain our sovereignty, rebuild our culture, and practice and continue speaking our language in our own way as we see fit, which is protected by the Montevideo Convention on the Rights and Duties of States. All right? So, map 2. There's another map, and I can go on and on because we went to the Maps and Geographic Department, as you can see. And people, if you can hear, on family, online, there's another map. It's an ancient map that shows the Choctaw in Georgia, the Creek Indians right across the middle, Creek Indians, and it's crossing our land again. That's just one. We also have, we're going to present enough facts, but we're not going to be, it's not going to be necessary to hear this again. Because you think you being intelligent and smart and slick by trying to poison our family because you think we don't have what it takes to do what we need to do to free our father. I guess you think he raised some kind of chump or some Negroes just off the street who was just fishing for things and trying to look important. No, we're really getting the job done. And we really involved. In fact, that's not, it's another job that was done when we went to DC last week, which we'll address outside of this. But I just want to finish addressing this video so I won't hear from this guy again. And if he wants to make another video, then we're going to continue until he decides and knows that it's a no-win situation, because you don't have enough facts. You don't have enough information. And everything that we're talking about is real and it's documented. And we have it documented, all right? So that's the second map. Let's go to the third map. You look on this map here, you'll see reproduced from the collections of the Geography of Map Division. And this is a map that was retrieved from the Madison Library of Congress and the James the Madison Library of Congress and the James Congress Library of Congress. There was 3 libraries there, and we went there after we went from the National Archives. Me and the brother, we was in D.C. for a week, and this is what was done. Work being done for Parmesan, not trying to decipher and debunk what we're doing, because it's not going to happen, and you're not going to get away with this. All right? So, Cherokee map here again. So you have another map. This is defining our territory, all right? So, I can go on to about 3 or 4 or 5 maps, and I will. I'll show you another map here. This map is the state of Georgia, and it's a map from, let me see if the date is on here. It should have the date. No, it doesn't have the date. But it's an older map. We have South Carolina. You have where the Seminoles settled, right here at the bottom. And again, you have the Creek Nations up here in this area. And it states it on this map. Another United States map, which we also retrieved, right here across Georgia, it says Yamasee. Creek Nations, right here. Look at the map if you can see it up close, or it's going to be right on the screen. The Cherokee, Yamasee, and the Creek Nations across Georgia. Defined territory. All right? That's a defined territory. And I have a lot of beautiful maps, family. A lot of beautiful maps, and you're going to be really happy once these go up and you see visually, because we know we love facts. And I love doing this. And this guy pulled it out of us. Not that we wanted to address it in this manner. You know, we still working, but we have to take time out to express to the family, and it's an honor to do it. And it's an honor to address these liars. All right? So this Creek Indian land again. So this is another map. As you can see, it says General Atlas Map, Boston, 1805. This is about 30 years after the Declaration of Independence was written and borrowed by the native tribes, borrowed by the United States in their Declaration against Declaration of Independence against Britain. All right? But this was a map that establishes who we were, where we were, and what lands we owned. And they ran into us because there was upper and lower creeks, and there was Yamasee, who were the upper part and the lower part of Georgia, as well as South Carolina. And when it was time to come together, we all mingled and came together as a family. The names and titles that they gave us was from them. It wasn't our true names. It was the names that we allowed them to call us because they didn't speak our language. So they didn't know what to call us. They didn't know our indigenous tongue and what we describe as ourselves. All right? So the credentials and the merits of your argument is all based on their words. It's not based on our perspective. If you stand your position from our perspective and point of view, you'll get the facts. But because you're presenting arguments from their side, you're limited in your argument because you keep going to the BIA. And the BIA didn't come into existence until the 1800s. You keep going to recognition. And recognition is not a prerequisite for our existence. No nation asks for recognition when they come and form themselves as a nation state. That's not necessary in the international community. In fact, most nations that exist came forth because they made the declaration. They made the proclamation. And the same thing happened with the United States when they fought for their independence because of the usurpations that was committed against them. They made their declaration and they declared it and signed on to it. 54 signatures signed on to the Declaration of Independence, and they made their declaration and established their nation on our land, and we allowed them and helped them to do it. So by right, it's not whether they recognize us. It should be, did we recognize them? Did we allow them to set up their government? Did we allow them to set up their courts? Did we allow them to establish their capitals on our land? Did we allow them to allot our lands to their white settler friends when they moved over here, migrated, and forced us off of our land across the Trail of Tears to Oklahoma? Did we allow that? And in fact, if that was done in 2012, it will be considered genocide. It will be a crime against humanity for the Trail of Tears and the allotment of our land and forcing us into the fabric of the U.S. that we were not accustomed to, that was not a part of our indigenous cultural sovereignty, and it was not the language we spoke, and it was not what our children, our wives, nor the men of our nation was particularly interested in doing. We were forced to do it. So if the question should be not coming from you, whether the United States recognize us, it's the other way around. And we have a right to make that declaration, and we will stand on that declaration, and we will stand on the rights that's protecting the United Nuwaupu Nation worldwide by conventions that's listed, and you will hear them today. So this is not, you're not playing with the average Nuwaupians when you come talk that trash and crap about how Pamanzal should have had his paperwork together polite. You don't question, you're not in a position to say what Pop should have had done. You created your own lane. You can't create a lane when he drew the road out. How you going to create a lane for yourself when he's responsible? He's the architect of the entire road and highway in the direction in which we're going. And I'm going to address everyone that has something to say, period, point from here on, from here forth. Because you want to mention Doosua York. You want to mention Pamanzal, Pamumkat, Dr. Malachi York, and use his name in subtle disrespectful terms and subtle disrespectful statements and posting it online as if you some new informed incarnation, as if you got some amount of information that no one else has. And you steady using claiming to be Nuwaupians with the B when he introduced that term to you. So don't come with that, because at this point, we have to protect our children, we have to protect our families, we have to protect our president, we have to protect our lives, our freedom, and you're not going to get away with it that easy. It's not going to happen. And it's not a violent threat. This is not a violent attack. No one's attacking you. No one made a video about you. I don't even know who you are. That's why I keep saying you. I wish I knew your name. And when I said that I would come to the city, wherever you were, it's because I will give you the opportunity as a man to step forth if you declare that Pamanzal is your father, as a man and as a son. If you are willing and you're able and you're capable of doing it, when I come and I said I will come and I will make the statement to you, and whatever statements you have to say, or proclamations you have to, paperwork you have to put out, you have a right to do it. But you make sure that you do it in a way where it's fair to the family, and they can make their own discretion and look at the documents from what you're putting out and seeing the facts on the table from what's being put out by Pamanzal and the legal team. And once it's laid out, do that for the family. But don't talk behind a screen or talk behind a keyboard, and then when it's time for the questions to be addressed, you can't be found. Put it out. This radio station is open for everyone. Any Nuwaupian that wants to come forth and you concerned like we are and love our Father, and for loving, in the sake of love and unity, do what you must to help our people. But you're not going to hinder. That's one thing you're not going to do. All right, you're not going to hinder with these videos, with these lies, and we're going to keep moving forward. All right, so now we have these other maps. I'm sorry, family. This is how this segment is going. And if I'm upset, I'm not. It's not a reflection of being upset. I'm not upset. Let me correct. I'm not angry. But this is what has to be done. And I think it's only fair for our family that they have all the facts when they defend, because we're in defense mode right now. All right, so this is what we defend ourselves with, facts, and that's how we've been taught, and that's how we're going to continue to move. All right, so these are other maps here. As you get the point, we have over 15 maps, and they will be made available, especially this one particularly. This one, Georgia, 1788 the Creek country inhabited by the Muskego Nation. This is all across Georgia territory. So this is proof that we do have a defined territory. And as far as our government, all right, we do have a government. What you have is a government in exile. Look it up, fam. These terms I'm saying over and over so you know in international law what they represent. In international law, governments in exile are typically, the existence of a government in exile typically starts from an invading foreigner onto your land, into your territory, and whatever conflict it is causes your government to go into exile, meaning they have to operate in another land. And it's historical, and it's happened several times. Again, I'll mention it one time. It happened with Poland when the Nazis invaded Poland, and the Polish had to go assimilate their government in a clandestine type order. They had to assimilate themselves in another country in order to operate. Well, the United Nuwaupu Nation government is in exile. And that's why we're having a lot of problems and issues. It's not because our nation purposely is disorganized. It's not that. Stop blaming us for the shortcomings in the fight and us trying to survive. It's not done. The office is not responsible for having to be moved off of a land in the governmental office is on our land with Hanny in our nation, on our nation's territory, was established. The sisters worked harmoniously. Their needs was kept. Their needs were there. The jobs for the men was to provide. The sisters took care of the paperwork, the office work, our products, our market. Anyone knows when we had our territory, we had our defined land, we had our environment, and we were practicing our culture, know that things were running smooth. When our president was out, things were running lovely. It wasn't until these atrocities was committed against us. Stop trying to defame and bring down Nuwaupians by saying Nuwaupians responsible for that. We're not responsible for it. We're not going to be the victims, and you come on top of that and try to abuse us with lies. We're not taking that. We're not going to fight against the beast and fight against black devils and fight against people that don't want him out. Fight against our whole existence. You're fighting the forces that are in you, and it may not even be you. It's the forces that's been bred in you from the genes of the 400-year bondage you've been in, the genes of the Caucasus inside of you that is fighting against Pamanzal and our nation and against yourself, and you don't even know it because of the ego. Because you want to sound like you know what you're doing, and then when you're done with the DVD or they're done with the CD, you don't have nothing to say. You don't come forth and say, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to help. You don't come forth and say, you're doing it wrong, brother Doosua York, but here's the right way to do it. You claim that this is not going to free him. Well, how egotistical is that? Right? How egotistical are you to say, this is why Dr. York is locked up. You're saying this is why he's locked up and this is why he's not out. If you know why he's not out, you must know why he's still in there. And if you know why he's still in there, why aren't you getting him out yourself? Well, how do you know what's not going to work if you don't know what's going to work? In order to say that's not going to work, you obviously have the solution. You can't say what's not going to work if you don't have a solution. You can't say that house is being built wrong, or the foundation is being built wrong, or you didn't hang the picture correctly, or this math problem is wrong. You can't say it's wrong and then not come back with the correct solution or come back with the correct formula or plan. You say it's wrong and then walk away. You say this is wrong and make a video, and you're not involved with our lodge. You're not involved with our office. You're not involved with the bookstores and open up your own businesses so we can thrive and move. You're not productive in it. So that's why you're being addressed in this manner. So either you're standing with us or you are against us. And so we're going to move forward with this. Move forward as we from these maps, which shows that we do have a defined territory, and we were addressing the government, which is the third qualification for nationhood and statehood. The fourth one is the capacity to enter into relations with other states. Now, Let me see if I have any questions. Okay. All right. No questions for now. Let me see if this brother has a question. Okay. I agree. Yeah. So brother made a statement. I'm just looking at any questions real quick before I go on because okay. It's no emails as of now. Oh wait, it could be. That's not. It could be some emails. Well, I'll check in a second. Okay. Now, I'm checking the emails, family. So just in case any questions come in. Oh, some questions did come in. Okay, question came in. Can you explain how we as the United wu-nuwaupu Nation are not a part of sovereign citizens movement? I will explain, Kobina, brother. Can you explain how 215-1993 does not have to be federally recognized? I will explain that as well. All right. And any other questions, just making sure. All right. Now, back to the point. Okay, so now we have the maps. So this was done last week. All right? We went last week. We spent the whole week. We got the map. Just reiterating the work. That's what we're reiterating. Forget what you're talking, what I'm doing. I'm working. All right? So if you got a problem with that, so be it. But the documents are here. And I can prove the work that's been done. And I know what's been done. So I'm not just talking because I like to hear myself. I'm not gaining anything by niggas trying to come at me like that. I'm not gaining anything out of it. The only thing I'm doing is our Father's work, whether you like it or not, and that's just how it's going to get done. And I'm not looking to be liked. I'm not in this for no friends. I have family. Nuwaupu is our family and our nation, and that's how it's going down. And if you're not with us, this is how you're going to get addressed. All right? So these maps, as you can see, all right, so let's move past the maps because you see they are available. And you see the treaties are here as well. And those that will see it online will see the treaties. We do have our treaties. So again, federal recognition is not, again, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. First of all, he made a statement, another erroneous statement.
There's a lot, and they're claiming that they're sovereign.
Okay.
They're their own sovereign nation. Now,
this is the guy. I'm just going to briefly let you hear what he's saying.
and I'm going to put certain videos in the description box, is to show and prove to people, or to educate people, or to convey a message that results in sound right reasoning for those that are looking for the facts. If you're looking for the facts, we'll try to present some of it to you. If you have any questions, you can hit us up with comments. You can hit us up on Twitter at DJEDWorld, DJEDWORLD.
Okay. We don't want to hear all of that.
In relationship with the United States of America. When that happens, you have to do there's
Listen to this.
petitions
Listen to this.
that have to be you have to petition the United States. You have to go to the Bureau of Indian Affairs under the Department of the Interior, and you have to file and you have to petition. But before you can petition, they have what they call a letter of intent. And if you go to the Bureau of Indian Affairs, you'll find, if you search for the Yamasee Native American Moors, and you see it right here, you'll find for the Yamasee Native American Moors, you'll see, or if you go to the Bureau of Indian Affairs, you'll see that the Yamasee Native American Moors, which is not the United Nation of Nuwaupu, but you'll see that they...
Okay, let me pause there. Okay. Yes, there's a call-in number. Hold on. Someone is asking on Facebook, is there a call-in number? Let me quickly address this guy. It's funny. This guy's really funny. He said there has to be an intent in order for a nation to nation. First of all, there's 194 nations in the world. Tell me what other nation you know notified the Bureau of Indian Affairs for recognition in the international community. Name one. Did China? Did Japan? Did Puerto Rico? Or Puerto Rico is a state. Did Mexico? Did Bolivia? Did Peru? Did Ecuador? What nation are you talking about that had to validate themselves with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Moving forward. Okay, another thing was said, that people are calling themselves sovereign. No, you don't call yourself sovereign. You are sovereign. It's not a call. It's a existence. It's a state of existence. You were sovereign when you were born. That's not something that can be given to you. You are born sovereign. You are born as your own authority until other governments or wherever you are implements their form of control over you, and you acknowledge it and accept it as such. And your name that you were given at birth is not a name that you decided to be called. And so the rights of a nationality is given to every human being who proclaims your nationality. So stop. I mean, first of all, with this angle that this guy is very dangerous, because he's claiming that we tied in, which we're not. That's not even necessary. And let me get to this UN number. All right. When you pull up the UN, when you pull up this UN number, you will see that it's a declaration of nationality that was given to, listen family, 2/15/1993 in the Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention. In 1998, number 169, and adopted on June 27th, 1989 by the General Conference of the International Labor Organization. This is because you do not study international law. The Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention, it adopted the international labor. It's called ILO, the International Labor Organization, and it's Treaty 169, number 169, and it protects indigenous people. And it was a number given to the United Wichita Didogamonia Nation, and they won their case, and they acknowledged, the UN acknowledged that the oldest indigenous people in the world are the Wichita. And because the Yamasee, because our master teacher, Pa Munka, is a Wichita. How is he a Wichita? Okay, let's go into that so we can lay it out with clarity again. Old York Yusuf bin Ali was born in 1756. He came here. He died in 1861. He had a wife by the name of Warda Salem Idris Rose. She was a washerwoman. She gave birth to Ben York. All right. The other wife of Old York was Ayi Maria. She was also a washerwoman. All right. This washerwoman is the great-great-grandmother of Tierra Washita Turner Gostin L. Bay. She took her fight, indigenous fight, all the way to the international arena. And she established herself in the international community because of the title Wichita, and them acknowledging and proving that the Wichita was here along with the Almacs before the settlers. And she proved it through deeds. And not only did she only prove it through deeds, she proved it through the deeds in the U.S. and confirmation of the transactions of the so-called Lewis and Clark Louisiana Purchase. And they realized that they were on stolen lands. We have an article that was written 1993, and it'll address it again. I will read it right now. According to the World Council of Indigenous People, The definition of indigenous people is the term indigenous peoples refer to, give them my phone number for the calling number. The term indigenous people refer to people living in countries which have a population composed of different ethnic or racial groups who are descendants of the earliest populations living in the area and who don't, as a group, control the national government of the countries which they live. Now, this is indigenous people. Family. Before we finish reading, I want to establish this as well. Not only are we indigenous peoples, listen, indigenous peoples are everywhere. Not all indigenous people have governments because they are not rightly headed. They don't have chiefs. They don't have pure blood Native American tribal chiefs that can reorganize their government, reorganize their nation, reorganize their country, and have things moving and flowing as an independent nation. They don't have that, most of them. We learned that at the convention in Switzerland, that most of these indigenous people only have a few instruments of protection. And one of them is the rights of the Declaration of Indigenous People. That's it. We are in a different category. Why? Because not only are we indigenous people, we are indigenous people who formed our own government and has voted in a president. So we don't fall under just indigenous rights, like this guy says again in his video, misleading people. We know that the rights of indigenous people is not what they consider a binding law. But binding doesn't mean it's not a customary international norm. It doesn't mean it's not accepted by the international community in good faith. Sometimes laws are not binding in the international community. They're just accepted and they are not deviated against. So you're wrong when you say we're relying on just the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, because there's other conventions that protect the United Nuwaupu Nation, because we are not just indigenous people. We are indigenous people who do have a language, who have come together and have formed our own government, who has the ability and the capacity to go and enter into relations with other states. So you can't just classify us as, oh, they're just indigenous people. So therefore, only the rights of indigenous people apply, as you falsely did in this video, maybe at about a few minutes into your video. So, no, we're indigenous people who have a government, which makes, and we not only are indigenous people, we are indigenous people with a permanent population that takes the dynamics of us and our state, our position, it takes us into another arena because we had control of our territory. All indigenous people do not have control of their territory. All indigenous people do not have a permanent population, and all indigenous people do not have the capacity to go into relations with other states. So, lies. That eliminates what you're saying, that we only have the right and it's not binding document. That's not true. All right? Let me give you a few other conventions that protect us. Oh, wait, no, I'm off track because it's a lot to cover. Let me finish addressing this article, and then we'll address those other conventions. This article that was put out in June 9th, 2003. And it says, so of course, any nation, those people who have stolen these lands are the ones who try to refute the idea of indigenousness because they know what the outcome means for them. So of course, this is from this article that was put out when we did live on our land. We had our control of our territory. It says, so of course, any action of people claiming their sovereignty will be persecuted, such as our beloved Maku Chief Black Eagle, Dr. Malachi Z. York. He is not alone in his struggle. For our Empress Versace Tiara Wichita Turner, Now, the reason why I mentioned Wichita Turner is because on our father's family tree, you'll see that the Turners are the family of the Wishaw woman who was a wife of the Yamasee Malian known as Old York, the father of Ben York. So they were distant cousins. Ben York and Anne-Marie Wishaw woman were cousins. They were related. So not only was Ben York a Yamasee, he also was a Wichita. So Yamasee descendants of the Creek Nation, of the Blackfeather, of Annie Sunbeam, Nancy Littlebird, and Sacagawea, which were the wives of Ben York, their descendants, their bloodline, who became Seminole from Annie Sunbeam, who became a Massachusetts Native American through the Yamasee William York, from Nancy Littlebird, which was the son of Ben York as well, and the Washakie son of the Washakie named boy from Sacagawea, who's on the back of a silver dollar. He was a Shoshone and a Wichita and Yamasee. So the number 215-1993 is applied to all Wichita people. So it applies to the Yamasee Wichita because we were the mound builders. We not only built mounds in the area of the Empress land. There's Wichita, there mounds built there by the Wichita. There's also Wichita mounds built in Georgia called Rock Eagle Mound, which is Wichita. So in the international community, Wichita is Wichita family. They're the same blood. You can't distinguish them. And because you're trying to step and argue on the side of the Caucasus, you don't see that because you haven't followed Pa Manzau's words. You haven't followed the flyers. You haven't followed the Constitution. You haven't listened to his classes, factology versus theology. You're not in tune with what he's saying. So all of this seems foreign to you. And that's why you're making statements on this video that doesn't make sense. And to those that don't know, it appears to be that it could have some validity to it, and it doesn't once you start punching holes in it and laying out these facts. And that's what's being done. That video is going to get punched all through. All right? So we're not just, the UN number is not a fake number. It applies to the Wichita. So that's the name that number is attached to our nation because we are a mixture of various tribes. And we left our mark as Wichita, and is proven by Rock Eagle Mound, which is Black Eagle's Mound, Banana Chief Black Thunderbird Eagle, the true chief who the Choctaw knew about and named Barack Obama after because they knew of the prophecy of Black Eagle that will rise and free the red eagle and thus destroy the white eagle, which was the Caucasus once Black Eagle was freed and rose out of the ashes that the banana bird does, which is a symbol of our nation, our nation's mascot. And we are rising out of the ashes because we appear to be desolate or dead. He appeared to be incarcerated and in prison. And once you free the Black Eagle, then the Red Eagle will free. And the Red Eagle is symbolic of all other Native American tribes. And that's who they're really looking for. They think it's Barack because of the old prophecies, and they thought because he helped Native Americans that he was the one that was considered Black Eagle when he wasn't. Our chief Ben name was Black Thunderbird Eagle. All right, so let's just clarify that. Those are ancient stories from our native tribes that was passed on, and the Choctaw kept a held of it and named him that at a ceremony. And correct me if it's Choctaw. I think it's Choctaw. I'm not sure. It could be another tribe as well involved. But they named him Black Eagle. All right? So this is not something new. And it's only out of ignorance. It's not out of even facts. I can see if the video was based on facts. Then you tied me into, let me clarify this. You tied me into Latif. I don't know Latif. I've never met Latif. I don't know that chief or whatever he claims to be over his so-called tribe. He's not our chief. There's only one true Black Eagle chief, in the Yamasee Creek Nation, Wichita Mound Builders, and the original Cherokee. There's only one. All right? We don't fall under his guidelines. We're not saying, I don't have anything negative to say about him. I don't know what he's done. He's not a part of what we're doing. Though he attempted to help, he went around and did things in his way as well. You follow that? But when you're not following the way of our nation and the way of our president, then I have no attention. I can't put the attention on you because you're leading us in a direction that's going opposite or contrary to what our nation is going. And we don't have time for it. So you cannot tie me into Latif by saying that he was responsible. You're going back into the bank statements and my involvement or knowing Jacob York, which is being passed around and spread around as well, because people didn't get the true information from it. They heard bits and pieces and they created their own statements and their own conclusions, and now they look at me and judge me based on what they heard, and no one can say I've talked to Doosua myself and asking them questions. Nobody has questioned me about Jacob York. Nobody has questioned me on whether or not I was down in Miami Beach, and I wasn't. I grew up in the community. Yes, I did. I grew up with the young Mukmanoon and Mukmanati. Yes, I did, and it's confirmed. I didn't just pop up in the last few years. I've been around. I've been here since I was 12. I was raised in the Ansar Allah community. I was upstate New York, went through the disciple program in New York, where hundreds of young brothers came through and they couldn't last. They went about their business and slandered and did what they did because they weren't true or whatever reason. I lasted through that. I was here. I lived on the land. People try to say, who am I? I'm the one that built the obelisk on the land. That's my monument. And I can tell you how it was built. Me and the brother Makeen. And I wouldn't have to say this and go through this if it wasn't such a topic on who I am. That's my monument. The master teacher pointed me out in a crowd of brothers and told me to build the obelisk and with Makeen as assistant, me and the brother Makeen, and he can confirm it for you. I put that last part of that small pyramid at the top of that obelisk. I know because it's four levels to the obelisk. And the master came out after it was supposed to go to 57 feet. We built it to 45 feet because if he said if we built it any taller, it would take away from the white pyramid at the time. And the night before, I was afraid to climb up any higher because the platform which I had to stand on to pull the walls up became smaller and smaller because of the way the obelisk was built. And you had to stand directly in the middle to pull those walls up on the side. So that's my monument. I was there. I lived in Monticello, had a bookstore in Monticello, Georgia, 20 miles from the land. And Milledgeville, I lived in Milledgeville, had a community in Milledgeville. And in Sparta, had a bookstore in Sparta. All three of those cities surrounding the land. I'm not a new person that just popped up I don't know what people are thinking. But if you need any information from me, I'm here. I'm a brother first. It just so happened that we're in a fight, and it's a privilege for myself and other brothers in the legal department and those who are fighting just as hard, know that this is what we love to do. So by picking a fight with me, that's what we do, fight. That's what we've always done. We've always defended Parmesan. So this is normal for me. This is not something that I'm going to run against. You put out a video and make a certain statement, I'm going to come back and address it in the defense of our nation, especially in the defense of Parmesan. I don't care what you say about me, but when you try to tie it in and defame what we're doing, then it's a problem. So first of all, let me back up to this R. Kelly situation. As people calling, I'm sorry I didn't hear the calls, but we do have a call. Please call back if you are calling in, family. And it's an unknown caller. Call back again. The phone was on silent. I hope it's a question. Is it a question, brother? Are there people with concerns, or there's questions, or?
This one particular person that wants to say something or ask you something.
Okay. Please call back. I'm sorry, family. The phone it was blocked. There's people trying to call in. You can call in. The phone is here, and you will be on air, and you can address anything you want. So please call back. You call in blocked, so I can't call you back. And I apologize again. I'm looking at the phone, so please call back in. All right, and I think this needs to be addressed. All right. There was a question about. There's a question. Hold on, I'm sorry. Okay, there's a question that came in. They're not a nation. Okay, they're not a nation for seek. I don't know if that's a statement or question, Zenfist. Please be more clear on your question. And you also there's also online. You can send a question. Can you address to the family why we changed from United Nuwaupu Nation of Moors to United Nuwaupu Nation? The master teacher dropped the word Moor. One, because the Moors denotation to Islam. And one reason he did it is to back up. He made it clear that when he called our nation and included the Moors in it to get them on board and bring us under one umbrella, they didn't come assist him when he raised his hand as a distress call in court. When he wore the Moroccan fez, no Moors came to his existence. No Moors came to his existence. None of them. You had people who stood on the side and let him get persecuted and persecuted in the courts, and no Moors claimed and stepped forth and said, "This is our brother. We are part of the United Nuwaupu Nation. We're declaring him as our president," etc., etc. They didn't come forth for him. You follow that? And they didn't assist in moving forward with our nation because of people with their so-called religious ties, right? Their religious ties. They kept the Moorish thing to El Bay, and they tied it into Noble Drew Ali, and Noble Drew Ali was the beginning of what we're trying to finish. So they took us back in that sense, and the master was trying to bring all of the all of the Moors under our umbrella as the United Nuwaupu Nation. But he included the Moors to help to assist, because there's a lot of Moorish organizations that are seeking sovereignty, and they don't know how to do it. And that's why it was never successfully done under Noble Drew Ali. He started it. It wasn't successfully done with Marcus Garvey. But we have the ability to successfully do it. So that's why he changed it, and other reasons as well. That's what we got from it. And of course, when he's out, he'll elaborate if he chooses to. But from what he's given us, this is what he has laid out for us as far as the name of our nation. And he has a right to do that. We can modify our name. Moor is not necessary. It's not a criteria for our existence because it's not on our name any longer. Therefore, we don't exist. No, that's not how that works. So we just wanted to make that clear as well. I don't know if any other some more questions are coming in, but I don't know if we finished. Let me make sure we finish this article. So the Washita Nation is a body of freedom-loving indigenous people who have been all over the world, and specifically on the North American continent, for thousands of years. They were in North America long before Columbus discovered the New World. And, okay, there's the phone call coming in. Hotep family. Brought back. This is a call coming in for the radio station. Okay. You have a question? Okay, I'll put you on speaker so the family can hear. You on the air, brother.
I have a question, because for what was stated, there was stuff in process with
the international courts, correct?
Yes. Can you state your name for the family so we'll all know we're on one accord?
Oh, my name is Ray Moose Samarket.
Okay. Okay. Wapu. Okay, Ray Moose, go ahead, brother.
On Facebook, my name, you may see it as Ray Ock on Facebook.
Okay. Ray Ock, no problem. Okay, yeah, no problem, brother. We're listening.
Okay. So basically, there was certain statements that there were certain things in process with the international courts, correct?
Correct. The one. There's several international courts. The one court we're talking about is the international ICJ, International Court of Justice.
Yes, I actually went to the website, but there was nothing stating that the Nuwaupu Nation was in a case in the international courts.
Okay. So your question is where are we with it, or why do you didn't see it? Is that your question?
How would that be verifiable to everybody?
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna leave you on the air. I'm gonna leave you on the phone so the people can hear the conversation. I appreciate your call, and I'm glad that was asked, because it was asked before, but of course the different questions came in. With the International Court of Justice, again, it's not the International Criminal Court. International Court of Justice, right? When we instituted proceedings against the United States as a sovereign nation, in respects to the violations, not in respect to the violation, an acknowledgement of the violations that was committed against our sovereign head of state, our president, as well as the violation of the rights of indigenous people. Okay, in the international court, if you look at the generals list. There's a generals list. And you look at the rules of the court. The rules of the court. You may have looked on the website and didn't see our name. But there are rules to the court. And the rules of the court states that several articles, and I suggest that you read through all of them. Right? It states that jurisdiction of the court, if it's in question, it has to be established before it can be placed on the general's list for the hearing by the international court. Because this is the first time that, and let me repeat it again. This is the first time that an indigenous people have ever claimed statehood on this land, which as original indigenous people before the establishment of the United States government, no other indigenous people have come forth and said that we are a nation. So the international court, in receiving our application, which we will make available to the public so they can read it themselves, the application itself. When we instituted the international court, they are looking to us to establish and show them before they place it on the list to be heard. Once they place it on the list to be heard, it will be addressed by the judges in the international court. But because this is the first time, they would like us, which we have and we can and we will and we are, they want us to establish how they have jurisdiction over this case. Because there is no case for them to look in their court hearings or their laws or their case laws that they can refer to. In other words, if a case comes up or a law is just recently broken or an alleged issue comes up in front of the Supreme Court or any courts in the world, 9 times out of 10, especially with the international law, they refer to a case before it that they use as an example to say, okay, this happened in 1954. This happened in the case of France versus Belgium. Or this happened with Nicaragua and such. They refer to cases before that they've logged, that they've heard and that they can make reference to in order to move forward and says, yes, we do have jurisdiction because of this particular case that was heard, and so this was the judgment, and this is what we can stand on. They don't have a case where a sovereign indigenous nation has brought, a nation state has brought another case against a nation state. So we have to show how, one, we are a qualified state. Because if you know anything about the international, which was international community, the International Court of Justice, you have to be a state. We have to show how we are a state, how we lived as a state, how we governed ourselves as a state. We have to show how the Yamasee went into treaties with the United States. We have to show how we existed before they were here. And we had governing bodies, and we have a president, a constitutionally seated president. We have to show them who we are through maps, which we just received. You heard us, we had the maps. We have to show them through his bloodline lineage. We have to show him through our ledgers and the Declaration of Independence that we have. We have to show them that we have our Constitution, and we were a state before in 1992 when we declared statehood and we declared our independence and autonomy and recognized our retained sovereignty. In the application that was presented initially, those factors were not necessary because it wasn't requested, or it wasn't something that the International Court had asked for. We didn't know they were going to ask to show proof. That's what court proceedings is. This is something new. This is a fight. So sometimes you don't know the strategy of your enemy. You don't know what punch they're going to punch you with in the third round. You just have to be prepared. So when we went into this international fight for the first time, we didn't prepare for them to say, well, we knew that it might be possible, and we was prepared for it, and we are prepared for it, but the paperwork that has to be drawn up, the maps to show what land we lived in, we have to show how they illegally allotted our land and forced us off of our territory, not once, not twice, but several times they forced assimilation amongst us. We have to show how that is an international crime, genocide, because even though genocide wasn't used until 1935 in reference to the Holocaust, the definition of genocide still applies to the U.S.'s atrocities and their actions towards us in the 1700s, because they forced assimilation and raped our women, and that's a characteristic of genocide. Even though it wasn't coined until 35, what the Yamasee Creek Nation, the Wichita, the mound builders of the wu-nuwaupu Nation, is saying that these crimes was committed against us before they even established these laws in international law. But the effects of them we are still feeling. We are still feeling the effects of genocide. In any other arena, if you show in this case in the international arena the way it should be, it will be an uproar. Because they forced, it's like equivalent, like we explained before, it's equivalent to forcing Mexico into the country of Panama, or Panama into a country that is purposely created propaganda to discriminate against them. Georgia, those newspapers, some of the newspapers, the Macon Telegraph, Rod Preacher's articles, Seals articles, they were creating propaganda that discriminated against us and caused the community to prejudice against us in their actions, which is against international law. You cannot do that. So we have to show the international courts how all of us, how we lived in our permanent population called Altamaha, the Yamasee Land and Creek territories, which is proven. We have to show how we had treaties, which we have. We have to show that we voted our president in as a head of state, which qualifies us as a state because it gave him the capacity to engage and enter into relationships with other nations. How? Because Nuwaupians were everywhere establishing their bookstores, which were embassies. There were embassies. Had we followed what he was telling us to do by saying, get your embassies, and it's in your Constitution. The bookstores will be embassies, and there will be many ambassadors. Read the Constitution. There are several ambassadors at the time, but people didn't see the big picture, and they didn't follow the protocol and what he established. So we are able to go into relationships with other states. Even today, we're able to do it. Why? Because of our commitment with our nation and assisting the African nationals that reached out to us as a government. And we have it right here. Let me show you. For those that will be looking at it online, we have over. These are the petitions from the various. This is each one of these petitions here. Each one of these envelopes have about 2 petitions in it. And we have these petitions, and with these petitions we were able to communicate, which we did last week, which Pamanzal mentioned, and he said was and I commend the brothers that assisted with that. Some people listening did mail off their letters to these African nationals, but these African nationals petitioned our government. They petitioned Doosua, York, the United Nuwaupu Nation, the legal department. They petitioned Dr. Malachi York, His Excellency, Pa Mumkok, our president. They asked him to assist, and that's what we did. So we were able to take their petitions, and write a letter to the embassies in which all of these African nationals are part of, their nation's embassies: Senegal, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria, Libya, Morocco, Mauritania, Eritrea, right? We were able to communicate with them government to government to let them know that their nationals reached out to us about the vast discriminations against them in the penal system. And these other governments welcomed us with open arms. This happened last week. So we are able to go into relations with persons with other nations. We are able to do it. And we walked right into the embassies. In fact, we had a sit down with the embassy of Sierra Leone. And they sat down and talked to us about what our nation was doing with their nationals and how we were helping them. And we plan on working together. We also had a sit down with the Nigerian embassy, ambassador to ambassador. This is a fact. This is communication, and we have the documents to prove it. And if you want to see the letterhead, we have a letterhead right here available. Where is it? Go ahead, brother. I know. I'm just make the point, because all of this has to be established so the international court can know exactly who we are. They didn't, we presented an application, and they're like, wow, okay, let's see how we have jurisdiction. They didn't deny our application. They didn't send it back and say this is bogus. This is, you're not who you are. That wasn't the case. They have it. We called them. They have it in their registrar. They just haven't put it on the general's list until they are sure that they have jurisdiction to hear our case as a nation state against another nation state. Because once it goes in front of those judges and they realize those provisional measures, and this is what we need, the provisional measures that's attached to the application, they know immediately they'll have to release our president. And that's something that they know is going to be something major, and it's going to have a major impact on the international community and the movement of indigenous people, and our right in our forefront of the efforts of indigenous people and other organizations that are assisting indigenous people, such as James and Naya and the rapporteur of the United Nations Convention, the Human Rights Convention. They're assisting. They sent us a letter of acknowledgement. The United Nations Human Rights Department James Anaya, the special rapporteur for indigenous people, when he received our case, we have a letter signed from him that acknowledges our president, and knowing that the U.S. hasn't incarcerated him, and they know that our indigenous people have been violated, and they said they're paying close attention to it, and they will be looking into it with strict eyes. This is from them, their words, in letter form. So it's not that, you know, it's not been heard. They know who we are. And you have to realize that this is going to change the dynamics of how indigenous nations, Native Americans, look and their position in the international community. You have to remember the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People and the acknowledgement of indigenous people only took place in the last 20 years. They're one of the last groups of people that have any say-so in the international community. Over 50,000 conventions have been laid out, and under the last few years is the only time that indigenous people, Declaration of Indigenous People, they have their respect. And it was the old Bush administration that didn't sign on to that declaration because he knew who we were. He knew who we were when he was going down to the Reynolds plantation. That was all a big plot with Reynolds Plantation and George Bush and him not signing on to that declaration because he knew that we already had our Constitution and we used the declaration to back our Constitution. But lo and behold, there's other conventions that back our Constitution, and there's other conventions, mainly one of the ones specifically that we use that protects the master teacher it's called the Declaration of the Rights of an Internationally Protected Person, which assures the protection of him from incarceration and any infringement upon his liberties. He is an internationally protected person by the fact that he represented a state, our nation, and he was sat there under a constitution, which is the supreme law of any nation. Their supreme authority is their constitution. So they know that we're not just another group that's saying, recognize us, please, in the BIA. They know we're not looking for recognition. And I spoke to the Justice Department myself. We sent them a letter ourselves. And you know what the lady on the line told us from the BIA? She said, well, there's many privileges that come with recognition. I told her, as an ambassador of the United Nuwaupu Nation, I told her we're not looking for recognition because you know we exist. By the fact that you say Yamasee out of your mouth is recognition. How can you recognize someone and use the word and then in the same instance say, we don't recognize you, but you just said our whole tribal name in the previous sentence? How can we not be who we are and you're referring to us as who we're claiming us to be? So I told her, I said, we're not looking for record. Our problem, when they received that application, I said, we have a dispute with your nation, your government against, we have an international dispute because you incarcerated a foreign head of state. And you forced the assimilation of 30,000 indigenous people into lands that we were not accustomed to, and you violated our cultural sovereignty and the right for us to practice and speak our language in our own territory, in our own land, and we're seeking peaceful settlement in this dispute. And whether we have to go to the International Court of Justice, whether we have to go to the Inter-American Commission, which is another body of international body that can look over the case. It's not just the International Court. That's just the first thing that was introduced to the Nuwaupu Nation. And people jumped on that and started attacking the International Court. Oh, they're not recognized. They're not on the list. That's not our only legal option. And if you do enough research, not you per se on the phone, brother, I'm not referencing you. I respect your question. But that's what the International Court is looking for. They're looking for us to show them that they indeed have jurisdiction, and we will come through with it. And it's taking some time. The documents had to be drawn up, and the information had to be researched. We had to go to the places to get the authentic records from the vaults of their archives of the BIA. We also went to the BIA, and we retrieved. We saw the BIA had the treaties. We also looked at the Lewis and Clark documents, their original handwritten documents, where they wrote about to see if they had anything referencing Ben York and they're receiving him or taking him or their travels, and with their handwritten notes, we comb through that for proof, and we just doing our due diligence. So no, you won't see it on the website because it's not on the generals list. Once you look on the website, you'll see that the cases that they list are general, or they placed on the generals list, and they're up to be heard. And so we're fighting for our case to be heard on the generals list, and it may not even go that far. We may can settle the dispute outside of the international court. That is one of the last resorts. We just beat them to the punch because we're saying enough is enough, and we went to the international court to say this is how we're going to go. Now, we can go from other means. We can negotiate government to government. There's ways to settle certain disputes between nation to nation. You don't have to be a member of the BIA to be considered a nation state, because if that was the case, every country in the world, every nation on the planet would have to have filed some form of intent, or whatever this guy on this video was saying. We have to file that with the BIA, and it's not necessary. All you have to do is look up the history of how other nations came into existence. Look up how Uzbekistan came into existence in the last 25 years. Look how Russia became a country. Look how Kosovo became a country. Taiwan is not even recognized by China. It still exists. So let me explain that as well. In the international community, every country does not recognize every other country. There are still disputes in the international community. One of the biggest disputes is Palestine and Israel. Palestine doesn't recognize Israel, and Israel doesn't recognize Palestine. They're two nations. One doesn't recognize itself, right, the other, but they still exist. They still operate themselves, they still operate themselves as a nation state. They don't downplay themselves and say, "Oh, we're not recognized by Taiwan." Taiwan specifically is being brutalized by China's power in the international community and their non-recognition by China. Just Google it. Google recognition of states. Google how you've South Korea and North Korea, and you'll see that they don't even recognize each other. And they if you cross one of their territories, they stand on a military line, and if you cross their line, they go into war. North Korea claims South Korea, South Korea claims North Korea. Every state is not going to recognize you, but it's your right, as the Montevideo Convention of the Rights and Duties of State, it's your right to fight for your independence. And it says it right here in Article 3. The political existence of a state is independent of recognition by other states. Even before recognition, the state has a right to defend its integrity and its independence, to provide for its conservation and prosperity, and consequently to organize itself as it sees fit. Organize itself as it sees fit, to legislate upon its interests, administer its services, and to define the jurisdiction and competence of its courts. The exercise of these rights has no other limitation than the exercise of the rights of the other states according to international law. Article 4. States are jurisdictionally equal, enjoy the same rights, and have equal capacity in their existence. We have equal capacity in our existence as the same as any other nation state. The rights of each one do not depend upon the power it has or it possesses to assure its exercise, but upon the simple fact of its existence as a person of international law. Article 5 of the Montevideo Convention of the Rights and Duties of States. The fundamental rights of states are not susceptible to being affected in any manner whatsoever. All right? So our fundamental rights as a state, and again, the qualifications of a state or nation is a permanent population, which we have, 30,000, a defined territory, which is our Tomahawk, our nation that they are currently controlling, our government, which is in place now, and our capacity to go into relations with other states. That's just a portion of the articles. I've just read a few of them. Another one is Article 7, where it says the recognition of a state which is us, may be express or tacit. Article 8 says, no state has the right to intervene into the internal or external affairs of another. This is our fundamental right, and the fundamental rights that we have are not susceptible of being affected in any manner whatsoever. So this is just a portion of what protects us. So we're not just saying we're a sovereign nation state based on one convention, the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. True indeed, it is an article, it's an instrument that solely focuses on indigenous people. But it's not the only convention that affects, associates, or defends or protects indigenous people or our nation. Another one is called, this one is, let's have several here. It's called the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And in Article 27 of this one, it specifically says that states in which ethnic, religious, or linguistic minorities exist, persons belonging to such minorities shall not be denied in community with other members of their group to enjoy their own culture, to profess and practice their own religion, or to use their own language. And this is an international covenant. And so this Article 27, though it's not in totality in reference to indigenous people, it protects our culture integrity. It protects our right to practice our religion and practice and speak our own language in our own land. So there's many instruments that we have. It's not just that. So it looks like I'm just going over. I know you're still on the phone, and you should intervene if you would like, bro. I know I've been rambling. I hope this satisfies the question. If you have any other thing to say, please feel free.
So basically, the case is not, I should say, in effect in the international courts. Right?
No, it's there. It's just like a filing. It's like you have a filing or an exhibit that the judges say, well, we need this before we can proceed. That's what that is. And that's what happened. They say, okay, we need this before we can proceed. And in international law, it works the same. It's a certain pattern. It's the same pattern you may have in other courts, that certain documents may be necessary to show jurisdiction so they could properly rule, and it won't be a case that they put on the general's list where they have to pull it back later because they erroneously or put it up there quickly before establishing jurisdiction. Because best believe the United States will challenge the jurisdiction, and that's our fight. And it's always been a fight. It's people always. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Also, I did some research on the Yamasi.
Yes.
And I went to the Bureau of Indian Affairs website. According to them, the Yamasi basically is not recognized or it doesn't exist to them based upon them.
Based upon who?
Based upon their websites, their documents. I checked for the Yamasi tribe and I didn't see it in their Bureau of Indian Affairs website.
Did you? Because we're not on their list as a tribe that are seeking privileges from them. There's over. Let me explain. There's over 550 tribes that have petitioned, and the reason why they petitioned. Do you know why they petitioned to the BIA? For recognition. Do you why they petitioned to the BIA for recognition is for financial privileges. And it's a way they destroyed the Native Americans, everything about them, placed them on ill lands, gave them little lands to say this is your reservation. But because they're not operating in totality as a complete government, as a complete state or nation, they look for the United States for help. And when you look for them for help, what happens? You have to relinquish your rights. You can't be up under them and have rights as sovereign. That's not what the BIA has established itself for. It was purposely established to force Native Americans to assimilate. That's the history of it. You're reading the BIA 2012. Look at the history of the BIA and why they were put together. Then you'll see how they became a pivotal department in the United States. You'll see why. You have reform policies that may have changed their initial reason why they were established. But if you look at the establishment of the BIA, it was to eliminate sovereign indigenous status, sovereign governments of nations. They did not want Native Americans to have the ability to govern themselves, because in governing themselves, they would govern their land. And the whole plot of the white settlers, according to the manifest destiny, was to settle and spread their ideology of white superiority and supremacy from the eastern seaboard, the Atlantic Ocean, to the Pacific Ocean. And this is an ideology that was a discriminative in nature, to eliminate all indigenous peoples, to force them into assimilation so they can take their land. And they use the BIA as a front to say, if you do this, this is what you will get. And this is why natives to this day are still not free. This is why the indigenous peoples are still not free, is because they're seeking approval from the BIA. We were the only tribe. Look it up. The Yamasee were the only tribe, just like the Mahdia tribe in Sudan, just like the Jemasi tribe in Ghana, and the Ashanti that mixed in with them. There's certain tribes that never assimilated. We didn't allow ourselves to be assimilated. We refused to assimilate. We refused to marry into them. And that's why they hate us. That's why, because we maintain our dark-skinned seed. And so they purposely wanted to eliminate us, and they tried to wipe us out of existence, right? And then they say, oh, we don't know even if they still exist. Or we don't even recognize them, to make people think that if they don't recognize us, then it's not real. And that's the spell. So that's a part of the spell, to keep people, Nuwaupians, thinking, damn, we don't need to be on their list. We existed before that list. Why does our zero-time reference doesn't start with the BIA existence? They came here, migrated here with diseases and drugs and pornography and rapes and murders and all types of a culture that was based on bestiality. And they had no idea how to farm. They had no idea how to travel through the Appalachian Mountains and travel across the plains and the forests and travel the rivers, and certain herbs and plants they needed to survive. Certain berries they had to eat, and poison foods that they couldn't eat. They had no clue what this world, our land, had to offer. So they needed us, but in needing us, they robbed us of everything that we stood for. And the Yamasee was the ones that rose up against the Spaniards, against the British. And once other tribes sided with them, then they forced us into retreat into areas of Florida, and forced us down into the southern areas of Georgia. And some of us went west, and some of us went north. And we came together again once the sight of Black Eagle was seen as a divine sign in the sky, upstate New York, on the DVD Elohim tape, when he pointed out that Black Eagle, which was representative of the great soul being here, and he said it's not a representation of me being here, it's a representation of you being here, because he was always here, and he was always a part of the prophecy. And he always overlooked Yamasee and his tribes then, and he guided, our ancestors guided certain mound builders to build Rock Eagle Mound strategically in a place that they knew we were going to settle when we acquired our 476 acres of land moving from upstate New York. It was always divinely guided. That wasn't a coincidence. Look up those mounds and look up Rock Hawk Mound and Rock Eagle Mound and find out how is all of a sudden they don't recognize us, but they have that as a historical site of Yamasee Native Americans right there in Edenton, Georgia. How can you say the BIA doesn't recognize us? Or they want you to believe they don't recognize, so you don't know, that you don't know your power and your strength and the ability you have to stand up, of which the master teacher on the phone several weeks ago said they always feared a black nation standing up claiming sovereignty. Always. Especially in this day and time with computers. And now we can print out these conventions that protect us internationally. Noble Drew Ali didn't have that opportunity. Marcus Garvey didn't have that opportunity. Deuce Ali didn't have that opportunity. They didn't have connections to the international community because the Caucasus and his system was designed to keep us out of it. The Native Americans didn't have access to the international community laws. They were eliminated. They couldn't even establish themselves because they kept falling up under the BIA and looking for their money and being controlled by the United States government, because they know if it was acknowledged in the international community, they'll be the first ones to have to give up this country back to their people. And that's one of the rulings that just took place a few months ago, that they had to give back the Grand Canyon because it was Native American land. And they have to give back $3 billion to Native Americans because they misused the money that was allotted to them from the Dawes Act and the Curtis Act when they retrieved allotments of land, and they never compensated these Native Americans once they removed the resources, the minerals, the gold, the diamonds off of their land. They never compensated them for it, and they know that's where we are now. They know that that's what Chief Black Eagle is doing. But as long as we got Negroes that are not on the same page, that claim they know what's going on, and they're investigating the wrong person. Yeah, they're investigating my history and my criminal record, and against a nation that's the whole system is set up to defraud and remove and steal money and create IRS departments and other departments that control your mind, body, and soul. Nobody's investigating them, but they're investigating me getting incarcerated for a car accident that I wasn't responsible for. Something as simple as that, as if that's necessary. And we at a pivotal point of our existence where we can make this shift and not be from up under the rule of him forever. And we can live up for and by each other. And we can free Pamanzal. You know, so yes, the International Court or the BIA, this is the first time, and we have to make that precedence, because he said we are the only ones that's going to do it and show who we are. Nobody else is going to come say, listen, y'all are Yamasee. Here's your maps. Here's your convention. Here's how you can get your president out. Who does that? The only people that defends their nation is the people of the nation. Nobody's going to take us by the hand and guide us and take us to Washington, D.C., take us to London, because, matter of fact, there's articles and conventions, declarations and treaties in London as we speak with the Yamasee and Britain. Before the United States declared their independence, we have, it's called the Article of Agreement. And it was written in the 1700s. It was signed by the indigenous tribes of Georgia with the British that came in and migrated, and we created a peace treaty with them. And because the United States government wasn't even established yet, the treaty couldn't even be logged in their archives. It was logged over there, but the colonial passing forth of documentation and communication between the early Confederate settlers with the British government when they were under the rule of the British prior to the American Revolution. So we can even go to London and get articles and show that we were in treaties with these settlers, and we allowed them to set up their land before they even declared themselves independent. So we have all of the facts. It's just putting it in the right perspective and laying it out, so it will be overwhelmingly convincing, because as Nuwaupuans, we have to go over, up, and beyond this anyone else. That's always been our position. We always had to do more than everyone else. And that's just the fight. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't go into the ring, in the first ring, thinking that, of course I said a certain time frame. I'm always going to say a certain time frame. I'm always going to say get him out now. That's a time frame. We needed to get him out yesterday. That's a time frame. I put myself in that position because you go into a fight, you swing in the second round. You don't swing and punch and don't think that your hit ain't going to knock the nigga out. You're going to swing hoping every hit knocks him out. That's the confidence you're supposed to have. So you're going to hit the confidence. So if something don't happen the next day, we still working. You know what I'm saying? Don't be so critical. I'm not speaking to anybody particular. I'm not anybody particular. I'm just saying that this is what's popping up over and over, and it's becoming a distraction. And all we have to do is tune into do research, do your international law research. And it's tedious. It takes time. You're going to have to buy books. You're going to have to travel to go to different archives. If you're willing to do it and you're willing to fight and you're willing to show your concern and love for the family instead of trying to mislead them with lies with 30-minute videos and you popping up once in every other month with some doctrine to try to debunk what we're doing, it's not going to happen, because when we off this radio station, the legal department is still moving. We still working. You know what I'm saying? So everything is there. So right now, it's in the international court. They do have the documents, and they're waiting for us to present the proof of who we are as a state, and that's why Pamanzao is laying it all out for us. So when it's presented, everything will be all wise, right, and exact. You there, brother? All right. Hey, speak up a little bit so the family can.
My last question.
Okay.
My last question would be, how does the Nuwaupu and the Nation of Nuwaupu tie into the Washita 215 1993? Like, how would that happen?
Were you online? Did you just tune in? I'm sorry, because we've been online about 3 hours, about 2 hours. Did you not hear the first part of the station?
I heard some of the first part.
Oh, we just covered that. We're going to re-air it, but we actually just covered that. How UN is tied into the Washita, because the Washita won their case under the Empress Verdiachi, right? Who was Turner Gauston L. Bay, who was a descendant from Old York. She was a Washoe woman from one of the wives of Ben York. Old York. And Versace is related to Ben York as bloodline of Old York, and Ben York is related to Dr. Malachi York as a descendant of the York bloodline. So it makes the Washita and the Yamasee blood-related family as cousins. As also it ties into the Seminole. So the UN number, the UN 215 again, the UN 215 1993 is a number attached to the Washita Nation. The reason why it ties into us is because we are Washita, because we migrated and we mixed in. We were the mound builders. We've always been builders, and that's why we built our land, to show the characteristics of mound builders. We built modern day mounds, like we did upstate New York, like we did on Altamaha land with Hanny, as we did 2,000 years ago when we built the mounds in Georgia. There's mounds in Illinois. There's mounds in Louisiana and Missouri. Look up the various mounds. We built those mounds for several reasons. Those mounds were protection sites for our Miku or Maku. We would lift them and have them live in that higher elevated area to prevent the beast of the field from roaming and having access to that royal family. So we were Washita or mound builders because we were all apart. All of that land was ours. We didn't particularly live in one area. We migrated. And we migrated as different tribes. And some tribes mixed in. And when the Washita mixed in with the Yamasee, and they migrated over here, Yamasee just means gentle people. So the Washita were gentle people. The Creek Nation lived by creeks. So by right, the Washita are creeks because they live by creeks as well. So when you say Creek Nation, all you're doing is giving a description of who we are, not what we are. It was just a description of what we were doing. All of the titles and names that you see, the modern day names that you see, the BIA, and they gave us all these names of Nez Perce and the Choctaw. Those are names that they gave us. The master hasn't even laid out our cultural tradition on who we are, really. If Yamasee just means gentle people, that's not what we are. That was something that we were showing in our kindness when we were allowing them to come and opened our doors up to them. So they saw us as gentle people until you crossed us. So Washita is not a name exclusive, or the 215 The 215-1993 was a United Nations number that was attached to the Washita Nation, the sovereign nation of Washita de Dogdemondia, UN number 215-1993, and it applied also to Wahani or Nuwapia. And again, you may have missed the previous, which I'm sure you have because you asked a question that was addressed, but I'll address it again. It's not a problem. The Nuwapia, again, the word, the letter, the letters, the suffix, IA. Don't believe this. I don't even want you to believe, because I don't want nobody to say Doosua York said nothing. When you research the IA at the end of words like Georgia, Nuwapia, Virginia, California, that IA means state of. It's a Greek word. It's a Greek term. It means state of. When they put IA at the end of King George, they made this area a state of the George's rule, because he gave them the charter. When you look at Virginia, VIA is, I forgot, I'm not sure with Virginia. I could look, anyone can look it up. You can look it up, who Virginia was named after. It sounded like it was named after a virgin or king, whatever the case. Whoever it was named after, they put the IA there to show that it was a state, not a land. Let me correct something. A state of existence is how you exist. There's states of confusion. There's states of turmoil. There's states of you can be in the state of a lunatic. You can be in a room, and that could be the state of whatever the case you want to call it. Tranquility, the state of peace. You follow that? Does that mean that you're not who you are? When you say Nuwapia, Nuwapia is the state of wu-nuwaupu. It's the state that you are in, brother. Anytime you're a Nuwaupian and you're sitting in your room and you're in a total tranquil existence and you're dealing with right reasoning and right understanding, guess what state you're in? And absolutely. Guess what state Nuwaupians are in worldwide? They're in a state of Nuwapia. The reason why the ledgers say state of Nuwapia is because Nuwaupians are everywhere right now. And until we get control of our territory, then we will properly assemble on our nation and control of our territory. But they forced us off of our land, but it didn't eliminate the state of who we are. It didn't eliminate our position of who we are. So I am in a state of Nuwapia right now. And any Nuwaupian listening, if you take the IA, the master is way ahead of people, man. Niggas is pointing out that little, not you per se, bro. I'm not attacking you. You my brother. You question with legitimacy. I'm saying people are pointing out that, not out of ignorance and trying. Oh, see, it was a mistake made. Some people looked at it and say, okay, let me get an overstanding of it. Because when Pop said state of Nuwapia, I was like, okay, it's different from the United Nuwaupian Nation. So I did it the way that he laid out, how he said it. I didn't question it. I researched it. Wow, it came. I looked up IA. All of a sudden it popped up. I'm like, I didn't know that IA represented a suffix of state up until recently. But I know how the master, I know how he works, and I know everything that he does is not by accident. None of it, everything is done with purpose, and it has a deeper root of meaning that most people won't know. That's the spiritual aspect of it that he's laid out and guiding us. So when you see Wahani and you see Nuwapia, Nuwapia is the state of Nuwaupians who live at the United Nuwaupian Nation and or who has lived on our land of United Nuwaupian Nation and who is living off of our land in the state of Nuwapia. So it's not a contradiction. It's just an existence. One explains our existence as a people, the state that we live in, just like some people are in this New York state of mind. No matter where they go, they think like a New Yorker. A nigga can be in Georgia and he's talking like a New Yorker because he's in a New York state of mind. Or whatever state you belong to. You come from another country for another, a person can see you, you're speaking your language, you're identifying with your culture, you're in the state of existence of that land, of that culture. You're in a Senegalese state of mind. We are in a state of mind, or the state of wu-nuwaupu or wu-nuwaupu. And the UN number does apply to us because we are a mixture of all of those tribes. Okay, bro. All right. I hope that answered your question. I appreciate your call, and thanks for the support. Without. All right, family. I'm gonna just check to see if there's any more emails that came in. A question, yes. There's a question that came in reference to Romney. The question: can you answer with the upcoming election this year? If one of the others gets in, such as Romney or Gingrich, is it said that we will undo the U.S. President Obama presidential proclamation on the rights of indigenous people? I don't know. I'm not sure if it will undo it. That's a very good question. Of course, we would like Obama to stand in as the president of their country, of the United States, because, of course, he's the only one that has assisted, as our father said, assisted in addressing the freedoms of indigenous people. But that's a question I couldn't answer. I'm not sure what type of provisions that he's made once he signed on to that declaration. If the next administration has the ability to revoke, or it's a term they use politically to I don't know if it's revoke or revamp or whatever word they use to reverse or what have you, that their proclamation. I'm not sure. I doubt it very seriously because I doubt it, but you never know. So I'm not going to speculate and say it's what's possible. It could be possible. It could not. I'm not 100% sure. So I'm not going to even attempt. I do know what he's laid out in reference to that we have to definitely, if Romney gets in, then it's definitely over. But we have to get him out now. So I just wanted to I appreciate your question. There's another question come in. I think this already is addressed. I think the Ray Ock, I think the brother addressed it. That was the one on the phone. And I'm just seeing his benefit, and I'm just seeing his question. I think another question came in the updates talk about Obama benefiting the nation. Why did the Mursal or the Mursal Tat in the updates talk about Obama benefiting the nation? The last shadow updates, because he did benefit the nation by acknowledging the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, as well as freeing and working together with Native American tribes. So that's why our father said, he mentioned that it's good to support Obama, and everyone should vote for Obama. And another question: do you have evidence that Malachi York is a Washita by blood and that he is linked to Ben York? Okay, I hope that answers your question, the bloodline and the descendancy. And we do have the documents, because we know that's the purpose of going to D.C. Right. That's exactly. He said who to vote for. But he's saying the support is needed because he supported us, Obama. So I just wanted to make that clear. Yes, question. In other words, there's no precedent in order for this court to refer to it. Yes, I mean, there's no precedence in the order. I got what he's saying. I think it's a question from Unas. Eunice, he's questioning the precedence of the case and how it is international court, and whether or not there's a precedence of one case over another. No, there isn't. It's just the jurisdiction. The jurisdiction has to be shown. And I mean, it's not a problem to do. It's just work. The work has to be done, and that's what we're doing. And fortunately, we have everything that we need. And so I'm going to address a few more questions. Pardon me. I'm just looking through the emails, family. I don't see anything particular that needs to be addressed. We may cut this short because of the length of the video. I'm not sure if we have. Let me see if there's something else I wanted to address with the family. If you don't have any questions, your questions stimulate. I wish the questions that we were reading or hearing online could be presented now, so that they can be addressed now as opposed to later, because oftentimes once we get on offline, then a lot of questions come up and a lot of people have inquiries about things that could have been addressed now. So if you have anything you would like to address or anything particularly you would like to be read or heard, then please feel free now to even call in and hold on, please. Call in and address your questions online or through the call-in. So if you don't have any questions, I think we can move forward with the update. Again, okay, we showed the treaties. Again, we do have the treaties, all the treaties in reference to the Washita and the Yamasee. And we do have the Dawes Act. We have received several acts from up there. The official act that was written by Congress and signed off by Andrew Jackson, which eliminated our Native American indigenous, our sovereign right. It didn't eliminate it. It forced the natives to relinquish it. Let's just say that, because we retained ours. It forced them to relinquish it in a way that they didn't know that they were doing. It was more so a forced assimilation. And so that's where we are with that. And there's no other questions coming in. I guess everyone pretty much had their questions answered. Anything? I'm trying to think. There's a few other issues we wanted to address. I don't know if it's of much interest to people. I haven't seen it in the emails, or no one has questioned about it. This whole Jacob York conspiracy issue. I'm really trying to get that in the past. Not the conspiracy itself, because the conspiracy was definitely something that was done. But the inquiries and whether I had involvement with it is pretty much something that I'm sure that people have, but I don't know if they want it addressed, because I will address it now, and I think it should be addressed because it's coming up as so-called questioning my credibility. And many people that came in at the wu-nuwaupu after that whole time frame where we were established the conspiracy, where we did go to testify in Brunswick on the behalf Oh, okay. Question came in. Yes, this obsidian. That's that question. When you say putting an IA at the end of wu-nuwaupu to describe the state of, affect the tone. Well, we know the tone, but for sake of documentation and the sake of paperwork, we can show them the wu-nuwaupic term. We have no problem with translating all of it into wu-nuwaupic. All of our declarations and our documentation, we can translate into wu-nuwaupic. But for the purpose of our statehood and international community, they have that AI is necessary. is there a nuwaupu suffix meaning the same that we can use instead? No, I mean, we can use it in our language, but we're speaking to English-speaking people, so we want to make sure they know exactly what idea we're being relayed in their language. Once we speak Nuwaupic to them, then of course you have to take into consideration that when you're dealing with international documents, they have a rule that a lot of these documents have to be written in the national language of the international community, and of course, based on our knowledge of the New World Order, that national language is English, and they have French as well. So we need to use those terms, and so that's why that IA is there, and to describe the state of. So I hope that satisfied your question. Okay, the question: did the sovereign citizens movement? Yeah, the sovereign citizens movement. That's a question that came in reference to these people that this guy, this video is trying to tie us in with. The sovereign citizens movement. And it's not the same. The sovereign citizens movement is a terroristic organization. But everyone knows that Nuwaupians are peaceful people. Everyone knows that. They've been trying to prove that we've stockpiling weapons on the land, proven wrong. The FBI came and interviewed brothers on the land several times, family members on the land several times. They looked through all of our warehouses, all of our silos. They found no illegitimate guns. They found no illegal stockpiling of weapons, and all of the ammunition and guns that we had on our land was registered to people who had the ability and license to carry their guns in the capacity that they saw fit as securing our land and our nation. So when we are not tied into this sovereign citizens, and let's make it clear, we're not an anti-government organization or a nation. We're not against the United States and their government. In fact, we respect governments because we have a government. We can't talk about another government and their rights that they're exercising when we are saying that we are exercising the same rights. We'll be shooting ourselves in the foot to even think that we are coming against or fighting against the United States government or attempting to overthrow them in any form or fashion. That is not the United Nuwaupian Nation's case or position. In fact, we're looking to go into negotiations with the United States in reference to our nation and our state as any other government will have the ability to do. So we are exercising our right. And we're saying we're not allowing any other government to infringe upon our rights just as much as we won't infringe upon the rights of any other government. And we have to acknowledge and accept these international obligations in order to be respected by the United Nations. We have to take that position as a non-member state, as the United Nations Charter proclaims in the very first chapter. That any non-member state must take the obligation of the United Nations and the position of the protection of international peace. We have to take that into consideration first. So no, we won't. We're not against. So don't try to tie us in with some subversive group and try to make it appear as though we're putting power fist up and Ungawa Black Power against the United Nations and the United States in a way that's going to be threatening or terroristic or any form of that pattern. We're not putting our children and our women in any more danger. So that's not what we're doing. We are nationals we are Nuwaupians, Nuwaupu of our nation. We are members of our nation, and we declare and have declared our sovereignty way before now. We've acknowledged our president in 1992 and voted him into office with the acceptance of our Constitution. And we respect and we acknowledge all other good governing bodies in nations that are acknowledging the rights of us just as well as we respect and acknowledge the rights of everyone else. So don't try to. That's never been our position. You're not going to place us in that and just to make yourself seem like you've uncovered some type of sovereign citizens. We're not tied to that. First of all, they're Caucasus. Okay, so and they're citizens. They're not claiming a nation. They're individuals who are trying to get out of whatever responsibilities they have to the descendants of their family members who migrated over here and accepted the United States government as their government. They have a right to do whatever they decide to do, if that's their decision, if it's within the laws of their country that they acknowledge. But we have a country that we acknowledge. We have laws that we follow. In our in Patarak, we have a governing body of 24 elders. That's part of our tribal family. We have a tribal flag. We have a nation's flag. We have a national language. We have a cultural language, wu-nuwaupu. We have our own nation's flag, which is the flag of the Yamasee. We have a tribal flag, which is we have our gold, black, and white flag with the Shoshone patch that you may have saw upstate New York, the Shoshone Washaki emblem that was on Ben York patches, and the brother, I saw the brother actually, Raymond Yassar, in the picture, he had the jacket on from way back then with the Ben York flag and the Nuwaupu Nation flag on the same jacket. Him and Ish in New York years ago. Those Ben York flags, those emblems, is a part of our Declaration of Indigenous Status even in 1990. So this is not something new. So again, we're not trying to overthrow. It would be foolish of us to even think that, and we've never thought that. So stop trying to put that in people's minds. That's not our position, all right? So I just wanted to establish that because somebody emailed that. So emailed that as a question. Did any other questions come on? Okay. And we're going to cut it short because we've been on about 2 or 3 hours, at least for the time being, so we can get the video edited and place it up so you can see. We can scan the documents. I'm gonna scan the documents, some of them, and we don't want people. A lot of like the new flag that's out. We want it. It's a new flag, our tribal flag, but we're not sure that we're waiting for Parmanzal's, our president's orders. So we're not going to move forward with anything in our nation without his satisfaction and without his authority of authorizing it. So no one is going to be doing anything and moving forward. If it's not coming from him, it's not going to be done. So anything as far as ledger updates, and they're going to be, he's making corrections to, he's making updates to the ledger. So be prepared for it. He's making updates with our symbols and our emblems, documentation. There's going to be a constant metamorphosis and growth as we build and continue to move forward. So there's going to be things that's going to be done. Okay, another sister appreciated. Another person asked me for the transcripts of the UN meeting that we went to in July, and I've asked them about the transcripts, but I've asked the United Nations. I don't know if they do I don't know if they're going to present the transcripts. They haven't gave me specifics. What we did find out is that what we presented on paper, right? What was presented on paper was called a not an intervention. Not an intervention. It was an intervention. It was an intervention, and we presented that intervention. And so they have to formulate with their documents they're going to present to the United Nations Commission of the Human Rights. And again, this was the fifth mechanism. If you looked up the several websites, you have to know what to look up under. And what we attended was the fifth mechanism of the rights. Excuse me. It was called MRIP, the Expert Mechanism of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. That's what it was called. And it was the fifth mechanism, and indigenous people had to be there. Nations had to be there because no decision can be made outside of about your indigenous people without their consent. And so we had the right to be there as Yamasee, as our nation state, and presented our paperwork on presented it to them for their filing, and whatever is called proposals that they will propose to the United Nations as a way to better affect and protect the rights of indigenous people and implement the governments of those nations to assist in keeping their obligations to the indigenous people. So we had to be there in order to present our proposal, in order to present our interventions, and the interventions that was presented inside of the proposals, and the proposals was presented to the United Nations Commission of Human Rights, and thus that would be the new laws that would be established going into the future. So no, I don't have access to the transcripts. They may make them available in a month or so. They did say sometime in September. But what I can do is make available the document that was read there both times on the floor or at the hearing, so you'll get an idea of what was being expressed on our behalf as a nation. Okay, another question is, did you address the topic about the flag and the latest update? I'm not sure about the flag, brother. I'm not sure about that, about the flag. And also the new topic of Yanuism. Hey, that's all new to me as well. So I don't want to it's not been emphasized. It's not been laid out. It hasn't been put no update. And that's something very powerful. And I'll have no information on it. I'm not going to make up nothing. I don't do that. The Yanuism it sounds like, I don't even know what it sounds. I don't even know what to put in words. And be patient. Yeah, definitely have to be patient in that. So I'm getting it just like I got it new, like anyone else. And I know it's something that the masters is introduced. And of course, once he introduced some things, it depends on how he feels, how he does it. Whatever he does, if he gives it to us, if we're worthy of it, then I'm patient. I'm just honored and blessed as anyone else to receive any information on it as well. Whatever information I get, I'm going to share it. But it's not something that any Mursals or me myself as an ambassador or a title and position has been privy to outside of anyone else. No, in that situation, I'm a eager listener and brother in that, and curious just as much as anyone else. So I appreciate the question, because that has been going online, and I haven't heard anything about it. And as soon as it comes in, then of course I'll do my best. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Again, we'll address that anyone that wants all affirmation classes can go to wu-nuwaupu. And I think this one will be up there as well. wu-nuwaupu.com. Yeah, we all family, we all intermingled, and I think for those that missed it, they'll be able to catch this one as well. Okay, so a few questions came in. Will there be an update to our Constitution? Yes, he's saying that it has to be modified, and it's being modified. And as it's coming from Pa Mumkak, I mean, of course, we took out the word more because the Moors didn't necessarily assist us, and so the master made his decision on that, and that's his decision. We're the United Nuwaupian Nation, and that's it. Our declaration establishes the several mixtures and tribal family that we are. Okay, the phone number, I think Hardak what is it? Oh, Hardak is 404-825-3211. You could call in if you want to call in and say anything on the air to the family. We can do it that way. You could just call in and I'll address it, or we can address any questions, and it's more than welcome of anyone's calls. You're more than welcome. I wish some of those guys from the video, or these Negroes that be talking behind, Facebook or whatever, I wish they call in. I mean, we posted a number. Let it be known. Let's work together. Let's unify. If it's really about getting the facts out, we can do it together. I mean, we're not shunning from or running from any questions or any inquiries. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, I'm here. wu-nuwaupu.com is here. The embassy is here. Let me address again. People keep disrespecting the embassy, and because they keep mentioning it as being a shop, right? a Nuwaupian shop. But I'm gonna tell you this, brothers and family, Yasard. Embassies, some embassies, you would be surprised to see what embassies have inside. They are the nation inside of another nation. So sometimes embassies have to be lived in by quite a few nationals. It could be a situation where Nuwaupians have to run to an embassy, and if they have to live there for a few days, then, you know, you have to have living quarters. And a business is good to have in your embassy. A bookstore is good to have in your embassy. I mean, I don't understand. Just visit some embassies. Visit the Chinese embassy and see if you have access to the Chinese, a suite at the embassy where you have, you have a living condition, you have living area. Right now, the guy from the WikiLeaks founder is living in the Ecuadorian embassy. I mean, can we have a bed in the embassy? There's a question because I have a business, a Nuwaupian business that promotes our doctrine, that introduces people to wu-nuwaupu, where they hear class every day because the bookstore is adjacent to it. The radio station is upstairs, so they're hearing our president every day. And so you keep quoting embassy as if inside is not a shop. We know it is a Nuwaupian shop here. Yes. Inside of the embassy, it is a building. And in buildings, there are sections. And in sections, you, as a person who has the building, leasing the building, buying the building, can decorate it the way you see fit. Am I right? So I don't understand why has that become such a meritable argument to where you posted it online as if you're saying something beyond. Nuwaupians have businesses. This is our way. This is what the master, our father, has always taught us to do. So forgive me if we're doing what he wants and we're doing the way he wants it done. I'm sorry if that bothers people, but y'all have to get over that. So we're moving forward with that whole issue. I'm not wasting too much time on it. I think another question come in. Does Amnesty International have anything to do with our fight? I'm not sure. I don't know a lot about Amnesty International. I haven't addressed them. I don't know what their organization is capable of or what their organization is doing. So as of now, I haven't. Maybe one of the other legal department members. And again, like I said, we're gonna have some other guests on this station so you can hear it from someone else that's involved with the fight. People, brothers who have traveled, who are doing what we do, and you're going to hear it from the legal team in the future updates and stuff like that. But for the most part, we are fighting and continuing to move forward with the good fight. This is a phone call coming in, family. Hold on 1 second. Yes, may I help you? Okay, let me put you on speaker. All right, you just state your name and state your name and everything so the audience can hear you. Okay, hold on. State your name, brother. You on air. It's a call.
Thundercloud speaking.
Yes.
According to our Native American tradition, the clan mother, that's from mother to daughter, is the tradition of our culture.
Okay, I'm sorry. What tribe are you in reference to? And you said Native American. I didn't hear the first. You said Native American something. I didn't hear that word.
Native American tradition.
Okay, fine.
In all Native American tradition, we are a matriarchal society.
Okay.
Right or wrong?
True.
In that the clan mother, okay, goes from mother to daughter, from the chief side of the family.
Okay.
Okay? In our culture, as far as Chief Black Thunderbird Eagle is concerned, it will go from his sister, because old Fatima has went to a higher life, to her daughter. Okay? This is Native American tradition.
Which Native American? Okay, brother, I understand. I definitely understand your question. I mean, your statement. I just wanted to clarify for the audience so they'll understand which Native American traditions are you talking about, and what
I'm talking about in general the Yamasee tradition, you know what I mean, and Native American culture.
Okay.
This is our tradition.
Okay.
So in that,
that's a very general. I just wanted to reflect that's general. So I know you're saying in general there's thousands of tribes. So we would like to just clarify when you say Native American culture. It's just general. So I just wanted to make sure that was noted.
So what I'm saying is in tradition, okay, it goes from mother to daughter, okay, in that being our tradition and culture, okay, that keeps the bloodline of the chief, the red bloodline, by blood, not by marriage, but by blood, in order, okay? And then it will go from daughter to daughter to daughter to daughter to daughter, okay?
So we're okay. Okay. I'm understanding what you're saying. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. So if you're saying mother to mother to daughter to mother to daughter, where would the chief, the male chiefdom, come in at?
It is appointed by his mother.
Okay, right. Okay, so we good.
Okay, so in that, if you know Native American culture, you know what I mean, it's 7 clans, and 7 clans have different duties. Okay, so in that being the case, the chief Black Featherbird Eagle, lead the warriors into battle. But the clan mother is the spiritual direction of the nation.
Okay.
Okay? So in that, laws are given, even with the Iroquois and other nations, the northern nations and the southern nations, laws are given by the clan mother and the grand matriarch of the nation. Okay? So in that, so it won't be no void in our tradition, okay? Because we know
it won't be what?
It will not be any void in our tradition and custom, because treaties are based on the matriarchal lawgivers of our nation.
Bro, okay, I'm trying to figure out your question, because it's certain statements that's being made when you say treaties are drawn up by the matriarch system, the matriarch society. You don't find female treaties on any signatures on any of our treaties, because the treaties that were signed by these different Native American tribes were done by chiefs, because the chiefs were the ones that protected the nation and protected the tribe. So
by the orders of the matriarch. Because if this is a matriarchal society, it spans the whole gamut of authority. And that's what the chief's been doing since we've been in any type of school. The women always ran the nation, and we always went out there to get the fish.
Absolutely.
So in this Native American culture that he always been doing, since whatever school we were in, we have to follow the same laws and bylaws if we're going to do this.
Okay.
And being that the chief has a matriarch and clan mother, and that is our culture.
Okay.
Then, in that being the case, we, as being our culture, we have to refer to them in all things that we do.
Okay.
As men, we are not in our culture to do that, to not inform them and them give their direction thereof.
Right. Okay. So, what's your question, brother?
Well, my question is not so much of a question, but I'll say it. In that, where do you see, you know what I mean, the women within the matriarchal and clan mother? Are you informing by right of the chief family, matriarch and clan mother on what you're doing?
Oh, by all means, yes. Yes, by all means. Let me explain to you why. Because, for one, I don't go see, a lot of people under the assumption, I don't go see my father, our father. I don't go see him. So, the information that even though we can write, I can write, and certain people can write, and I was fortunate enough to be, able to write him, right? The people, the individuals that go see go sees our president, are our sisters, and they are the patriarch society. They are the females that operate to this day, as you said, his governmental office. I have an office separate from the governmental office. My office is an ambassador. I have a different job. He has a governmental office that's responsible for handling the various departments of our nation, and they're all females. The females, let me finish, because I'm going to explain that we do acknowledge a matriarch society. In fact, the Masters is the only organization since day one, to those that's been around, who that's how it's always been ran, and it's still being done to that day. We have females, our sisters are over. Our sisters are over the religious department. They're over the educational department. They're over our language department. They're over our sacred order, the AEO. So that is still being established. All of the information that comes back and forth between Pamanzao and the president and his governmental body is done through his matriarch setup that he's always established, that all the brothers in our dot has always acknowledged, and we've always respected, and we've never violated from our traditional cultural practices that places our women in a position where they're well protected and they're well provided for. So, by all means, I'm with you 100%. This is, yeah.
I'm not talking about women of marriage. In our native tradition, we're talking about the direct bloodline, group birth, not marriage. The
but once you
We're talking about adopted children or anything. We're talking about the bloodline.
Well, the master, our chief, I hear what you're talking about, and let me say this, and I'm not going to speak on something I don't have the authority to speak on. When it comes to, I've said I'm not going to speak on something that I don't have the authority to speak on. Well, what I'm going to say this in closure and finality and conclusion to it, that our president has always operated and ran and was the head of our state, the head of our nation, done it the way he saw fit. And whoever he listen, let me finish. I'm not finished.
So I'm saying to you, if you acknowledge the matriarchal system, then the matriarchal blood from mother to daughter would be his sister and her daughter.
And I'm sure.
If we're born, you have to understand when you're going to Native American nation and going to powwow.
You're asking me. Let me pause for a second, because let me pause you for a second before we go on and on. You're asking me about how our president runs his office, and I'm not in a position to answer that question. He runs it the way. Let me finish. What I have an appointed position and job that I do in the highest capacity that I can. I don't go outside of. I'm not finished. I have to be. You have to be fair. You have to be fair and let me finish the question, finish the statement, because if you're going to ask me something that I can't answer, it doesn't matter how many times you ask, I still won't be able to answer it, because I'm not in a position to answer something on why our president does what he does. I'm not in a position to do that. All I can do is defend it, right? If I have knowledge of why he's doing it, if he gives us his reason, because oftentimes he doesn't give us the reason why he does a thing, because it may be for protection. It's several reasons why he don't. But for the answer to the matriarch society, I have utmost respect for all of our sisters that operate in his office, that he's appointed in whatever position he puts them in. Whether he decides that they're blood or no blood, that's not my distinct. I don't determine that. So really, that question is more so for him, because he is the head of our state and he's the head of our nation. So I'll leave it at that. That's not a question for Ambassador York. So I don't want to go into something on how he's running it. He's run it the way that he's done for years, and it's always worked. It's been effective, and that's how we're going to continue to move with it. But I appreciate your call, and maybe hopefully we when we get more clarification from that on how he's bringing it down and sending it down to us, then we'll be able to have a little bit more clarity. But for the
I was told that he wants his sister involved. Now, I'm Native American. I was raised up in the Native American tradition. Okay, we understand that the Yamasee was the head of the Federation of all Native Americans.
Right, but this form is for questions, though. This form is for questions.
What I'm saying is this is a direct question.
Okay, I didn't want to be rude. I didn't want to be rude. I didn't want to be rude and waste people's time. But we want to try to limit it. We want to try to limit it to questions so everybody can get their question in. And like I said, in reference to the matriarch society, it's still in place. His sister. Hold on, bro. You're not letting me finish. His sister, Tabaret, she's still in position. She's head of the 24 elders. And Hapa Manzal lays it out for his nation and the structure of which it is. That's how we're going to maintain and keep it. But I appreciate your call. I'm going to take the next call. Okay. Any other questions, fan? Okay, the question came in. Facebook question. If there's no other questions, there's not really a lot of questions, but okay. There's just emails. I'm checking the email real quick. Okay, there's a question. I think somebody has a concern with this IA thing. Oh, the question is why do we have to alter our name with the suffix when we are being taught to do the very opposite? Has any other nation who has named themselves not named by Europeans and then presented themselves to the UN in an effort to gain sovereignty? Okay, again, you don't gain sovereignty. I think people are under the impression that you have to seek sovereignty. And you don't seek sovereignty. Sovereignty is declared. And if you look it up, you'll see that it's something that's declared, and it's something that's stood upon, and it's a right that you have. So it is not something that we're looking to gain from the UN. He said the question is putting an IA at the end of our name so they can be overstood, recognized as a state. No, that's not the purpose for recognition. It's to establish that we are in a state of wu-nuwaupu. That's what that means, Nuwapia, our nation, our land, our existence. So I think it's just misunderstood on the purpose of the IA. And if there's certain ways that things have to be done when you deal in international and communication. You have to establish yourself as such, especially. I mean, if that's the case, we shouldn't use any English letters. I mean, because we're not really using our Nuwapic letters. And so there is a metamorphosis, and there is a protocol for how the documents are drafted from nation to nation. It has to state certain things. And so what I was giving you, I didn't put IA at the end of Nuwaupu. That was our master teacher that did that. So I just want you to know it's not coming from me, that I didn't add it or change it. There's something that he did. And so as to why, I can only give you the explanation of what it means and what it stands for and how he's told us it ties into us being a state and it's our state of existence or state of Nuwaupu. All right, so I don't know how clearer that can be. And again, to point out, we are not seeking sovereignty. We're not asking for sovereignty, as the question states. It's not something that we're seeking out. All right, so there's a question. Okay. There's a question that came in. So I think we can pause for now. I think we've been on quite some time, about 3 hours. Something like that. So we don't want to drag it out too long. We do want to save some information for another segment. Exactly. So I'm gonna leave it at that, and maybe we'll get into other questions or issues that you may have. But we're gonna pause for now until next time. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, this will be on wu-nuwaupu.com, and hopefully that everyone will be able. Hopefully everyone will be able to do the research they need, what was given tonight and this evening, and come up with their own questions or more research to get a better understanding so we can defend our nation properly and we can move forward in freeing Pamanzao and make sure everyone is on the same page. And please don't forget to make sure you send your ledgers in. The ledgers are definitely necessary and they're needed. And again, this is Doosua York fighting all of us. The legal team, the United Nuwaupu Nation, the government of the United Nuwaupu Nation, fighting for the freedom of our nation, our people, our future, our family, and especially for our beloved President, Pamumkat Kamam Benanu Akab, His Excellency Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, Panabab Yanoon, Pamanzao, Nesdar, Amunabab, Reye Ahak Fatah, Zetwe, and all of the other illustrious names that he's allowed us to address him by, and so we're just making our claim as Nuwaupu and standing up and defending ourselves as we supposed to. And so anyone else that has anything to address or would like to on the next segment, we will address the next segment and post it on when it will air and when people will be able to tune in once we get more information and more updates. I hope everyone is tuned into the updates the blessed doctrine that's been coming through from Pamanzao's information in the form of Patrak and studies. We want to make sure that we stay in tune with the Nuwaupic website, the language, because that's important. And until next time, Wadao.